Every single one of us would jump at the chance to follow our dreams. But the MC from Emily in Paris literally goes from this to make hers come true. The City of Love has more drama, secrets, and romance than one girl from Chicago knows what to do with. So grab your favorite snack and settle in for your new comfort binge video, because we are going to Paris with Emily. The first episode opens with our main girl, Emily Cooper, completing a 5-mile run in just over 40 minutes. Right off the bat, we can see that Emily lives for the hustle. In the next scene, she's off to her job as an agent at a marketing firm called the Gilbert Group. Pretty much, they represent and sell various products, from medications to luxury items. Emily's boss, Madeline Wheeler, prepares to become an American executive at a French marketing branch her company just bought. Needless to say, Madeline's pretty excited about the opportunity, but just as she's meeting with Emily to discuss it, she gets hit with a big surprise. Madeline's pregnant. There's no way she can take on a new job now. Madeline offers the position to Emily instead, and she doesn't hesitate to accept. She then meets her boyfriend, Doug, after work. As they stand in a crowded bar, cheering on the latest sports game, she starts to tell him the great news. 1. She just got a major, life-changing promotion. 2. It means she gets to move to frickin' Paris! Later, while walking through Brooklyn, Emily and Doug discuss how they'll make long-distance work. I get the feeling he's not big on the idea of her moving away, but he does make one valid point. She can't speak French. Emily doesn't let that minor little detail stop her as she catches the next flight to Paris. There, she's set up in a fully furnished apartment in the oldest building they have to offer. Without an elevator, the poor girl drags herself up 6 sets of stairs just to reach her room. Technically 1 set extra, because what she would consider the first floor in America is called the ground floor in France.
It's on the 5th floor. This is the 4th floor.
It's a whole thing, just remember this detail for later. After turning down her guide's shameless attempts at flirting, Emily goes out to explore Paris for the first time. She's head over heels for the City of Love and takes that energy into her new workplace, Savoie. Seriously, she's wearing a button-up with the Eiffel Tower on it when she shows up on her first day. She then meets the gossip-loving Julian at the front desk, just to tank her first impression by using a translation app. Julian calls for their no-nonsense boss, Sylvie Gatto, who immediately hates Emily. Turns out that not speaking French is a pretty big deal. On her way home, Emily accidentally miscounts the stairs in her apartment building and stops on the 4th floor. When she tries to force her way into someone else's apartment, a handsome neighbor opens the door to confront her. And this is how she meets Gabrielle. Okay, so maybe Paris isn't too bad.
Gabriel, French, from Normandy.
Oh, I know that beach.
After awkwardly excusing herself, Emily gets a night of rest before throwing herself into work the next day. Unfortunately, she just can't get over the cultural clash between herself and her coworkers. They exclude her, they talk behind her back, they call her le pluk to her face. Look that one up, it means the hick. Wait, they do know where Brooklyn's located, right? After another long shift, Emily has lunch at a park, where a kid knocks her baguette out of her hand. His nanny, Mindy, witnesses the whole thing. She apologizes and offers to buy Emily lunch, but when Emily refuses, she settles for a conversation instead. I totally get it. Her kids act like little terrors. I would want to talk to another adult too. Mindy and Emily instantly hit it off and swap phone numbers. Later on, Emily also goes to a cafe where she crosses paths with the long-term Savoie employee, Luc. He's been in the business a long time, so he sits down to give Emily some friendly advice. Luc admits that he and his co-workers feel intimidated by Emily and her work ethic. They don't want to work harder because while Americans live to work, the French work to live. Emily's new co-workers think she's a workaholic, and they're worried that she's going to set the bar for work expectations. If she does, then Sylvie will expect them to double down in the office, leaving less time to do whatever it is the French do. I get it, they're the masters of working smarter, not harder, but that doesn't mean Emily isn't making them look bad. When Emily gets home that night, she finally gets in touch with Doug. I forgot about him between the tour guy flirting and her really hot neighbor. Anyway, the dude's terrible at reading the room. Emily wants to talk about her day, but he wants to get down and dirty over the phone. Emily's not at all into it, so she plugs in something to, help herself out, only to blow the breaker in her apartment. Yeah, I can't imagine explaining that one to her landlord through the translator app. In the second episode, Emily tries to get back into old routines by going for a morning jog. When she gets back to her apartment, she tries to break into Gabriel's place again. At this rate, it would be easier if she just moved in with the guy.
Emily, do you want to live in my apartment?
Gabriel seems to think so too. Just so we're all on the same page, we don't talk to our neighbors like this unless we have some chemistry, right? But while joking with Gabriel puts some pep in her step, Emily's day just goes downhill from there. For starters, she steps in dog poop on the way to work, ruining her heels. She snaps a pic of the guilty pup and their owner to post on her Instagram, just to notice a recent spike in her follower count. That's right, our girl moved to Paris and now she's an influencer. At work, Emily catches wind of a huge party happening for Savoie's biggest client, a perfume company called Maison Laveau. Emily wants to be on the guest list, so she bugs Sylvie until she gets permission to tag along. At the party, Emily meets the owner of the perfume company, Antoine Lambert. Emily sees their meeting as an opportunity and begins to share her plans for marketing his brand. Antoine needs to leave before she can finish though, but Sylvie's horrified that anyone would talk about work at a party. There's another example of French working to live, which apparently forbids them from networking and talking shop outside the office. So, Emily tries to make it through the rest of the night without causing a scene. Unfortunately, Antoine finds her by the refreshment table and uses his perfumes as the perfect excuse to tease her. He starts making suggestive comments just to see her squirm, like how perfume can act like an aphrodisiac. Is it just me, or is he coming on to her too? Damn, Emily's got some serious game, and she's not even trying. One thing's for sure though, Sylvie's jealous. The next day, Emily bumps into Savoie's owner, Paul, who tells her that Antoine wants her to work on the perfume's marketing campaign. But Sylvie refuses and convinces Paul that Emily needs to work her way up to their luxury clients, assigning her to a women's health medicinal brand called Vajajeune. Later, Sylvie tells Emily not to flirt with Antoine. Of course, she wouldn't do that because Antoine's a married client. When Sylvie leaves, Julienne gives us the tea. She's actually Antoine's mistress. Emily has to tell someone, so she sets up a midday gossip sesh with that nanny from the park, Mindy. They decide to eat at Les Deux Compères, a popular restaurant near Emily's place. As they chat, Emily tries to send her steak back twice because it's undercooked. Eventually, the chef comes out to talk to her, and surprise, surprise, it's Gabriel. Talk about an awkward encounter, but at least Mindy enjoyed dinner with a good laugh. As if her week couldn't get any worse, Doug calls her a few days later. Emily had already booked his flight for an upcoming Paris trip, but he decides that long distance just isn't for him. Without any compromise, he tells her to come back to Brooklyn so they can be together. Naturally, Emily doesn't want to give up her new life in Paris and dumps him on the spot. She doesn't handle the breakup well, but she goes into work the next day and throws herself into the Voyage campaign. Since Emily is still learning French, she notices that the possessive word placed in front of Voyage on the packaging is male, when it should be female, due to the product being for female care. When she asks Sylvie about it, Sylvie makes a comment that really bothers Emily. In retaliation, Emily posts Vagajun to her Instagram, reminding everyone that a woman's body belongs solely to herself. I doubt many people post about Vagajun, so her post goes viral. The French president's wife actually shares the post, and her approval is a pretty big deal. Mindy texts Emily about her viral posts, just as she passes by a cafe where Sylvie, Paul, and a few others have lunch to wish Paul farewell. Apparently, he's saying goodbye to Paris and leaving Savoie in Sylvie's care. Anyway, Paul notices Emily outside the cafe and invites her to join them. He's pleased with her success and officially welcomes her to the team. Emily has her foot in the door to start marketing those luxury products, but I have a feeling Sylvie will make her life a living hell. In the third episode, Emily is finishing up another jog when she gets a video call from her boss in the States, Madeline. Madeline offers to send over their office's commandments, a set of rules that their employees have to follow, which she thinks will benefit Savoie. Emily agrees, but their call is cut short when she notices a local using an outdoor urinal. Yeah, those are a thing in Paris. When she gets home, her ancient shower breaks. Honestly, her entire apartment building seems like a death trap, and her landlady is no help. She rants at Emily for knocking out her power the day before and breaking her shower. Of course, it's all in French, so Emily has to get Gabriel to translate. Gabriel's kind enough to leave out their landlady's insults, but lets Emily know that a plumber will be called and that she'll have to wash up in the bidet in the meantime. After the shower disaster, Emily heads to her language class because our girl desperately needs to learn French. She tries to get lunch with her instructor, but after learning she'll be charged 50 euros an hour, she backs out of that plan. Then, she runs into Sylvie on her way to work, who jumps at the chance to make fun of her Instagram account now that Paul's not in earshot. It's shaping up to be a pretty day, and it only gets worse when Emily gets to Savoie and finds her co-workers revolting against her commandments.
Thou shalt always maintain a positive attitude.
Seriously, Emily? Thou shall not. Maybe they've got a point. Still working on the Maison Laveau account, Emily joins Sylvie and Julien for a commercial shoot for their new perfume. Emily's shocked when the actress drops her coat and walks completely nude across a bridge, where a dozen men watch her walk by. She tells the others, including Antoine, that the commercial feels sexist and won't get good feedback from an American audience. But her co-workers believe admiring someone's appearance is a sign of respect, so there's a huge disagreement there. When Emily goes home that night, she's disappointed that her French-speaking plumber can't fix her shower. After ruining Gabriel's nap to use him as her human translator, she learns that her old shower needs a specific part to fix, so it'll be out of order for a few days. Fortunately, Gabriel's a generous guy and lets her use his shower in the meantime. Emily gets to go to work the next day feeling more refreshed, but the moment she steps inside Savoie, she finds her commandments were ruined by an inappropriate drawing and left on her desk. It's really the icing on the cake for a terrible few days, so she goes out to have lunch with Mindy. Mindy wants to help Emily clear the air, so she offers to throw a dinner party that Emily can invite Sylvie to. After lunch, Emily has a meeting with Antoine at Savoie, where they play the perfume commercial. Antoine asks Emily if the commercial seems... So she suggests putting the commercial online with a poll so fans can decide for themselves. Antoine actually likes the idea, which makes Sylvie angrier. At this point, Sylvie hates having Emily in the office, so she immediately turns down the chance to hang out with her outside of work. It looks like that dinner party might be a waste of time. The dinner party's not so great anyway. The small dinner became a massive rager, with dozens of people showing up. Most of them don't speak English, and Emily ends up on a balcony alone. Fortunately, she's approached by a handsome man who sweeps her off her feet for the night. They ditch the party early, spend the night walking Paris's streets, and almost hook up before the guy's straightforwardness and foul-mouthed flirting totally turn Emily off. Emily stops by Gabriel's work for a glass of wine on the way home. In a moment of vulnerability, she admits that Paris doesn't like her, but he cheers her up with an incredibly sweet comment about how much he likes her. The next day, Emily gets another call from Madeline, who tells her that Antoine's company has received significant online engagement since he posted the perfume poll, though some of it is negative. It's one of those things where even bad press is good press. At least word about the perfume is spreading. Emily takes the win and uses it to motivate her throughout the following workday. Her first order of business is dropping an inappropriately shaped cake on Luke's desk. He's the one who ruined her commandments, and she's not afraid to fight fire with fire. Fortunately, he thinks it's hilarious and it earns his respect. When Emily gets to her desk, she finds a present waiting for her. When she opens the box, she's horrified to find a pair of lingerie waiting for her from Antoine, with a message asking if there's or Sylvie walks by at the worst time, and Emily covers for Antoine, stating the lingerie's a gift from a friend. I don't know, girl. That's a weird thing for a friend to send to your office. In the 4th episode, the grouchy owner of a flower cart tries to sell Emily some sad-looking white roses, even though she obviously wants the pink ones. Like usual, there's a language barrier that almost makes Emily give up, but a local woman steps in to help. After getting Emily the pink roses, the woman introduces herself as Camille. She's young, pretty, and super sweet. And it's no surprise that she hits it off with Emily right away. She invites Emily to an art gallery she's hosting later that night, where Randy Zimmer, the owner of an American hotel chain, will be in attendance. Camille goes in for that oh-so-French goodbye, but Emily misses her cue.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not.
Oh, I like her already. When Emily gets back to the apartment, there's a ton of packages waiting for her. Gabriel helps her lug them up to the 5th floor, only for her to crack them open and discover that several jars of Trader Joe's peanut butter had exploded all over her stuff, including a picture of her and Doug. Emily can live without her ex-boyfriend, but her peanut butter? God forbid! Gabriel notices the lingerie from the last episode just sitting out in her kitchen, but lets it go when she says they're from a wealthy, married client. He can't give her relationship advice, apparently, but he does offer a better alternative to peanut butter. That's how they end up in his apartment. Gabriel makes her an omelet that's like eating at heaven's gates. His secret, the pan he cooks in never gets washed. All that residue really adds to the flavor. While they're enjoying breakfast, she gossips about Antoine and Sylvie and their complicated love affair. Emily might be better off minding her own business though, because when she gets to Savoie, she overhears Sylvie and Antoine having an explosive argument in her office. Apparently, he doesn't feel appreciated enough as a client. I don't know about that one. I think he gets appreciated plenty. Emily swoops in to smooth things over, stating that she plans to meet with Randy Zimmer later that day to discuss a custom perfume collab. A collab that was all Sylvie's idea. Antoine's interested and collaborated with a prominent hotel chain, so Sylvie takes the credit. Emily even gives Sylvie her pink roses to sweeten the deal. Yeah, so that deal goes up in flames because the moment Antoine leaves, Sylvie hates looking incompetent. So she reprimands Lily for trying to help. She even throws those nice roses on Emily's desk. Julien and Luc take Emily out to lunch afterwards, where they try to figure out whether she's sleeping with Antoine. He did send her the underwear after all. Later, Emily and Mindy attend the art gallery, where Kami introduces them to Randy Zimmer. Able to get a moment alone with the hotel owner, Emily gives a killer pitch for a unique perfume line. Randy's only in Paris for another day, so they barely squeeze in time for a proper meeting. It takes place at Savoie the next morning, where Randy also meets with Sylvie and Antoine. By the end of the meeting, Randy's still on the fence about the perfume, so the group decides to decide on dinner. Put in charge of the venue, Emily tries to snag the last-minute seats at a restaurant with a Michelin star. That's a pretty big deal, and when they arrive for their reservation, she finds out that she booked their seats for November, not August, because they write their dates differently in France. Emily's in the hot seat after that mistake, so she calls Gabriel and asks him to prepare a table for them after his restaurant closes. She smooths over her mistake by promising Randy and the others they're about to meet the best up-and-coming chef in Paris. And wouldn't you know it, it works! Gabriel's delicious dinner and a fantastic pitch from the Savoie team land the collab deal with Randy. Sylvie and the others plan to go out for drinks to celebrate. Surprisingly, Sylvie even invites Emily to join them. But picking up on the chemistry between her and their chief, she encourages her to go back into the restaurant and get her man. Emily takes Sylvie's advice and rushes back inside, where she shares a passionate kiss with Gabriel, only to leave before he can respond. Back outside, Emily happily greets the woman from the flower stand, Kami. She didn't expect to meet her again so soon, and she gets even more excited when Kami admits she's going to the restaurant. What a strange bunch of coincidences, right? Wrong. Kami's actually Gabriel's girlfriend. Did your heart drop? Mine did. And so does Emily's when Gabriel steps outside to greet Kami with a kiss. Oof. Who knew Paris was so messy? In the 5th episode, Emily meets up with Mindy to talk about the bomb that was dropped on her over the weekend. Coincidentally, Kami shows up at the same restaurant where they're eating and pulls up a chair. After an awkward introduction, Mindy takes a picture of Emily and Kami together so Emily can post it on Instagram, which, by the way, has over 20,000 followers now. Later, when Emily gets to Savoie, she receives an invitation to an influencer event from the makeup brand Duret. Julien warns her that Duret and Savoie have a complicated past, but Emily goes straight to the source. When she asks Sylvie why they don't have a cosmetic brand on their accounts, Sylvie changes the subject to a luxury bed company they're meeting the next day. Naturally, Emily attends the Duret event without approval. While there, Emily is swarmed by influencers who only care about the brand deal, not the actual product. She tries to land a meeting with the company's CEO, but thanks to her success with that Vajajun post, she convinces the CEO to have a private lunch the following day. Outside of her apartment, Emily runs into Gabriel and Camille, who invite her to an interactive exhibit that looks like they're inside a Van Gogh painting. When Camille gets distracted by her friends, Emily and Gabriel agree that their kiss was a misunderstanding and that they should pretend it never happened. Sure. The next day, Emily and Sylvie meet with the representative for the luxury bed brand. They think Sylvie's marketing idea is boring and overused, so Emily steals the show by suggesting interactive ads where people can take pictures on beds in notable places, like the Louvre, to post online. The representative loves the idea, and Emily rides that success to her lunch with Dure's CEO. The CEO wants to make Emily a brand ambassador, but quickly cuts ties with her after learning that she actually works for Savoie and Sylvie. There's apparently a lot of bad blood between the two women. Well, Julienne did try to warn her. When Emily gets back to Savoie, Sylvie demands that she delete her Instagram account. Sylvie fears the clients will start using influencers like Dure instead of marketing firms to push their products. Emily later meets with Mindy to deactivate her Instagram account, but as one last hoorah, they get drunk and take a bunch of pictures around notable places in the city. After their night out, Emily returns home and finds Gabriel waiting. As they make their way upstairs, he admits that he felt something between them too. Break up with your girlfriend, Gabriel. Mark my words, stringing two women along never works out. The next day, Emily goes to work, where Sylvie demands that she reactivate her Instagram. Apparently, the luxury bed people saw her posts, and they want to put one of their beds at Place Dalida, with Emily as their first model. Emily spends the rest of the day setting up for the shoot, only for Khami to conveniently show up. The two get into bed together to take a selfie, which Emily captions #GetInBedWithUs. Of course, Gabriel likes that post without a second thought. In episode 6, Emily realizes that forgetting about the hot chef downstairs isn't as easy as she thought. She's been kept up all night thanks to his and Kami's passionate lovemaking. Let's just say her apartment has some pretty thin walls. Poor Emily can't even complain to Mindy when they meet up for breakfast because she's distracted by memories with her dad. Mindy explains that she actually comes from a pretty wealthy family back in Shanghai, but she left home to pursue her dreams. Unfortunately, her dad's not above bribing her into coming home with fancy cars and big houses. At Savoie, Emily, Julienne, and Sylvie prepare to meet the famous fashion designer Pierre Cadot. He's a pretty big deal, and it's Sylvie's dream to make him a client, so she's incredibly anxious. She tells Emily to keep quiet. Unfortunately, things don't go as planned when they go to his mansion for their meeting. Sylvie and Julienne shower him with over-the-top praise, but Emily can't think of anything flattering to say and comes up short. Then, Pierre notices the Eiffel Tower charm on her purse and calls her Ringard before storming out. Julienne helpfully translates.
What does Ringard mean?
It means basic.
Later that night, Emily goes to a cafe where a handsome stranger asks whether the two people at another table are a couple or a mother and son. The stranger introduces themselves as Thomas. They stay at the cafe well into the night and then end up at Emily's place for a passionate night of their own. They have such a good time that they plan to spend the following night together. But first, Emily has to get through another day at Savoie. It sucks. As soon as she gets into the office, she realizes Sylvie sabotaged her by giving her the wrong meeting time. Now she looks unreliable to her own clients. Emily meets up with Mindy at the park to tell her about Thomas, where they also talk about Mindy's childhood some more. Aside from her rocky relationship with her dad, she's also loved to sing and competed on a famous singing competition. Maybe Emily inspired her, because Mindy decides to look into venues to sing again. Emily convinces her to sing for her, and Mindy draws in a crowd. Sure, she might be a little rusty, but our girl's got some serious pipes.
and life will always be.
I'm glad being a nanny was only plan B. After chilling with Mandy, Emily meets with Thomas for their date night, only to bump into Gabriel and Kami. Awkwardness aside, the four of them go on a double date. They barely make it through a glass of champagne before Gabriel and Thomas start fighting. It's like they're polar opposites, and as they both steal glances at Emily, I think they view one another as a threat. It's one thing to be an overprotective friend, Gabriel, and another to be jealous when your own girlfriend is sitting right there. The next day, Emily manages to snag tickets to a production of Lake Swan that Pierre will attend. She tries to convince Sylvie to go with her, but when Sylvie refuses, Emily invites Thomas as her +1 to the ballet. On her way out the door that night, Emily bumps into Gabriel on the stairs, who doesn't like that she's dating Thomas. He admits that he thinks the guy's a stuck-up asshole and that Emily can do better. Oh, are you volunteering, Gabriel? Emily ignores him, and goes back to the ballet to meet Thomas. Unfortunately, they don't make it inside the venue before he's asking to leave because he hates Swan Lake. He's definitely an ungrateful snob, so Emily goes into the ballet alone to find Pierre. She somehow manages to sneak onto his balcony where she forces him to hear her out. She explains that while she seems boring and basic, she and people like her are the reason behind his brand's success. She admits that people like her would save every penny just to afford a bag charm he designed. To them, his clothes and accessories are the height of luxury. That means Emily knows what his biggest fans look for because she used to be one, making her the perfect person to market his designs. The next morning, Sylvie demands to know why Emily went to the ballet against her wishes. I don't understand why she's so worked up, because it worked out in the end. Pierre called Sylvie and set up another meeting, agreeing to a market deal, but only if Emily works with him. In episode 7, Emily catches Sylvie out shopping on her way to work. As they walk into Savoie together, Sylvie admits that she's going on a week-long romantic getaway with Antoine. Emily offers to run point for an event for a client, Fautier, but Sylvie has a better idea. She makes Emily babysit an American actress who will wear a Fautier watch during the event instead. At Savoie, Julien and Luc happily share the actress's information with Emily. Brooklyn Clark is super famous in America, but her films flop in France because they always have happy endings. Apparently, the French prefer more realistic endings, in which the main characters might break up or die. Emily goes to Brooklyn's hotel to meet her, only to discover she's different from what Emily thought she'd be. Brooklyn's disrespectful, annoyed by everything, and doesn't take the upcoming event seriously. The only way Emily can get her to cooperate is by offering her a Pierre Cardin dress to wear for the night. Sure, let's stick the irresponsible actress in an expensive watch and a designer dress that needs to be returned by the end of the night. What could possibly go wrong? After meeting with Brooklyn, Emily goes to have dinner with Mindy and Kami at Gabriel's restaurant. She invites them to the Fautier event, but both of her friends are busy, so Kami volunteers Gabriel to go. She also reveals that the restaurant owner wants to sell the business to Gabriel, but that the price is too high. Apparently, her parents offered to loan Gabriel the money to buy the restaurant, but he had turned them down. Gabriel doesn't want any tension by taking money from Kami's family, but Kami really wants to help him achieve his dream. Looks like we've got trouble in paradise. The next day, Emily helps Brooklyn pick out a Pierre Cardin dress for the party when Pierre's nephew Mathieu arrives. He's the head of his uncle's business affairs, and he didn't sign off on a marketing deal with Savoie. Emily convinces him to give them a month-long trial to prove themselves, so long as she gets a post-worthy picture of Brooklyn in one of Pierre's dresses. Later, at the Fautier event, Emily is juggling a lot when she's asked to sign insurance papers for the €2 million watch Brooklyn will wear throughout the night. Maybe Brooklyn should sign those papers? Later, Antoine shows up at the event with his wife, Catherine. Emily tries to warn Sylvie, but Sylvie plays it off. Apparently, she and Catherine are longtime friends. That said, I don't get the vibe that Catherine knows about her husband's affair. She suggests that they all go out to Gabriel's restaurant once she gets back from her trip with Antoine. For whatever reason, Antoine has allowed his assistant to forward the confirmation email to Catherine and not Sylvie, leading Catherine to believe the surprise vacation was for her. Antoine doesn't want to admit to his affair in the middle of a party, so he plays along. Sylvie leaves the event early, with Emily chasing her car into the street. Unfortunately, as Sylvie drives away, she also notices Brooklyn leaving in a car while wearing that multi-million euro watch. Emily and Gabriel contact Brooklyn's driver, who tells them which bar she's going to. They try to convince her to go back to the Fautier event, but Brooklyn reminds Emily that Paris is the perfect place to make mistakes and let go a little. Somehow, Emily falls for that, because it's not long before she and Gabriel are also smashed and partying it out in this random bar. What's even worse is that they're drunk enough that they go in for a second kiss. Well, damn. Screw Kami, I guess. Emily comes to her senses long enough to realize what they're doing is wrong. She goes to find Brooklyn, only to learn that she left the bar, and without another plan, she and Gabriel return to Brooklyn's hotel to wait for her. Unfortunately, Brooklyn booked her room under a fake name, so Emily can't even get inside. It's around 2 in the morning at this point. Emily and Gabriel sulk at the hotel's bar when Sylvie shows up, because you know damn well Fautier calls her to get their watch back.
Girl could be dead in that room, and not just any girl, an American girl.
Sylvie pulls a badass move to get into Brooklyn's room. They find Brooklyn hooking up with a guy. Emily snaps a pic of Pierre's dress, which is suggestively thrown on the ground, and they get the watch. Afterward, Emily goes outside to tell Gabriel that she can't be with him if he's not going to be committed. The next morning, she wakes up to find her scandalous dress picture has gone viral, which officially gets her the marketing deal with Pierre. All's well that ends well? In episode 8, Emily tries to avoid Gabriel and Kami after that damn kiss in the last episode. Of course, Kami wants to meet up for lunch so they can talk. Emily shows the invitation to Mindy while they have breakfast, which is literally no help. She offers to get Emily's mind off things by inviting her to meet some of her friends from Shanghai, who are coming to Paris to shop for wedding dresses. These ladies happen to be Mindy's best friends, but she didn't tell them that she became a nanny or that she's poor. Having Emily there will help sell the illusion of her glamorous Parisian life. At lunch, Kami asks if Savoie might consider representing the family's champagne business. Emily agrees, so Kami invites her on a weekend trip to her family's chateau. Emily agrees because Gabriel isn't going, and pitches the champagne business to Sylvie once she gets to Savoie. Of course, her co-workers tease her for taking an interest in the company because it's connected to the hot chef, Gabriel. Later that night, Emily goes clubbing with Mindy and her Shanghai friends Shay and Lee. These girls are wild. I can see why Mindy loves them. After a night of partying, Emily packs her bags into Kami's car just for Gabriel to show up at the last minute and join their trip. It's so awkward. You're ruining the girls' trip, Gabe. Once they get to the chateau, Emily meets Kami's mother, Louise, and her father, Gerard.
Bonjour! Vous êtes Emily!
Oh my god.
Now that's a first impression. Louise wants Gabriel and Emily to go down to the market to grab dinner, but Emily skips out on the market by taking a bike ride down to the vineyard, where she gets a tour from Kami's brother, Timothy. They later have dinner together at his family's house. Unfortunately, tensions rise when Louise brings up Gabriel's restaurant and his unwillingness to accept her loan. Gabriel excuses himself and checks on something in the kitchen. Nice save, chef. Emily, meanwhile, eases tensions by taking a picture with Kami to post on her ever-growing Instagram account. Meanwhile, Mindy is out having the time of her life with her other friends. Shay and Lee took her to a drag show for the night. It seems like a fun surprise, but that's not the only thing they had planned. They paid the bar owner a lot of money to get Mindy on stage. Apparently, they knew she had become a nanny and wanted to convince her to pursue her dreams. They get her up on stage where she delivers a kick-ass rendition of Chandelier on the Fly. Emily catches an Instagram live of her performance and gets to cheer her on, but gets interrupted by Louise and Camille fighting. Camille blames Louise for ruining her relationship, and Emily goes to sit by the pool to escape the noise. Timothy joins her and apologizes for his family with some champagne. He suggests that they run away on his motorcycle, and with some alcohol to help her make bad choices, Emily finds herself waking up in Timothy's bed the next morning. Only to find out that when she goes down to breakfast, Timothy is Kami's younger brother, her 17-year-old younger brother. That's the biggest yikes I've ever seen. There's no coming back from that one, Emily, even if he did just finish high school. Strangely, though, Louise pulls Emily aside to ask how Timothy did in bed, because she's worried about his future. Yikes. That's totally not her business, and her priorities suck. But Emily manages to turn the conversation around to Savoie marketing the family's champagne. Louise agrees, and Emily leaves the chateau with another success under her belt. Hopefully, Gabriel and Kami will never mention the Timothy incident to her ever again. In the 9th episode, Emily gives her pitch for marketing Kami's champagne, a spraying beverage called Champagne, to Luc and Sylvie. Sylvie needs more convincing, so Emily invites them to one of Camille's art galleries to properly meet their prospective client. As they walk and talk, Emily also realizes that Sylvie's ignoring Antoine because of that botched vacation fiasco a few weeks back. For lunch, Emily meets up with Judith Robertson. Judith is a member of the American Friends of the Louvre Association, and she's a total Southern sweetheart. She couldn't be more out of place in France if she tried, but her infectious smile makes her the perfect friend for Emily. Judith wants Pierre Hadot to donate a dress for the American Friends charity auction, and Emily says she'll try to convince him. By him, he means Pierre's more agreeable nephew, Matthew, who she also invites to Camille's art gallery so they can talk business. At the gallery, Matthew invites Emily to dinner so they can talk privately, and they walk the streets of Paris while eating crepes. They talk, they laugh, and there's obvious chemistry. As they go, they run into an advertisement for a new clothing company called Grayspace, which will have a show at the upcoming Fashion Week. She then subtly brings up the need for a dress for the auction, and Matthew tells her to stop by tomorrow to see if there's one that'll work. The next morning, Emily cyberstalks Matthew to learn more about him. That's how you know she's really into him. What comes up are endless articles about Mathieu and his ex-girlfriends. Sylvie pops in just in time to say how weird it was to see Emily with Matthew because mixing business with pleasure goes against their workplace commandments. Damn, that's cold. She's not wrong though. At the auction event, Emily notices that the designers behind Grayspace have arrived. She knows that they're fans of Pierre, so she doesn't think anything of it. Besides, she has bigger concerns when a storm prevents Judith's model from attending the auction. Emily and Judith start to panic when Matthew arrives and suggests that Emily model the dress. The auction goes by without a hitch, with the dress being the last item of the night. Emily comes out on stage, and with Grayspace ramping up the bids to nearly 40,000 euros, they buy the dress, just to ruin it with gray paint. The publicity stunt scares Pierre, puts Grayspace on the map, and makes Emily the talk of the town. The next day is all about damage control. Pierre is in shambles because the fashion industry is calling him outdated, so Emily sets out to fix things. She goes to confront Grayspace, who offers to do a collab with Pierre to bring his brand into the world of streetwear. Unfortunately, when Emily later brings the idea to Pierre, he turns it down. He doesn't think Grayspace understands what fashion really is and won't give his competitors the chance to make amends. Outside Pierre's room, Emily catches up with Matthew, who assures her that the French always make it through their darkest hour with a surefire tactic: making love. Emily says she's not that French yet, and the episode ends with the two of them sharing a kiss. Ooh la la. The season finale starts with an Emily-Mindy breakfast, where they catch up on recent events. Mindy got a job offer at the bar where she sang the other night, but it's only 2 days a week and will require her to hide her whereabouts from her other conservative employers. Emily convinces Mindy to follow her dreams, and then gets a text from Matthew asking to meet up. Emily assumes he wants to talk business, but instead, he surprises her with a boat ride on the Seine. How romantic! They spend the entire day on the water and go back to his apartment for champagne afterwards. Before they can get to second base, Pierre calls Matthew with crazy news that he's going to give up his spot in Fashion Week. So, Matthew leaves Emily to talk some sense into his uncle. The next morning, Luc tries to have a meeting with Antoine and the rest of his team at Savoir. Everyone's ignoring him, including Julien, who reads an article about Pierre leaving Fashion Week for the first time in 30 years. Matthew calls Emily to break the news, and Sylvie jumps over the table to take her phone. Emily follows Sylvie into her office, where they talk to Matthew on speaker. He reveals that even though the collection is finished, Pierre just called his own designs basic before storming out and giving up his venue. When the call ends, Sylvie blames Emily for the catastrophe and fires her on the spot. When Emily goes back to her desk, Luc and Julien come to comfort her. They reassure her that firing someone is almost impossible in France because of all the red tape. They encourage her to show up to work and keep her head down until the situation blows over. When Emily goes home, she finds Gabriel and Kami arguing outside. Once she's alone with Kami, she learns that Gabriel saw a restaurant in Normandy that he can afford. He plans to leave Paris and the two women who love him behind. What a catch this guy is. Emily goes to Gabriel's apartment in search of answers. He's already packing and not wasting any time chasing his dream. Emily says she'll miss his omelets, but she understands because she never expected that chasing her dream would lead her to Paris. The next morning, Sylvie confronts Emily for coming to work. Luc saves her by giving her Antoine's account, pretending that he can't get along with the other guy because of their opposing alpha male energy. Have you seen Luc? I can't believe Sylvie bought that. In the clear and allowed to work until Sylvie finishes her termination paperwork, Emily gets a call from Pierre requesting her presence. She heads over to his place with Sylvie tagging along. When they get there, they're shocked to find Pierre in a brand new dress. We don't get to see it, but Emily loves the new design. Sylvie, not so much. But Pierre admits that Emily's the one who inspired his new launch and that he wants to share his latest creation with the world. He agrees to make more dresses for the collection, while Emily finds a venue. Emily comes up with her plan for the venue after watching Grayspace buy out Pierre's former Fashion Week spot and defacing it for another publicity stunt. What is their problem? After a long day, Emily goes home to continue working, just for Mindy to show up with bags because she got fired from her nannying job and needs a place to stay. Emily lets her stay, and Mindy goes to change in the bathroom. While she's gone, Gabriel knocks on the door and gives Emily his frying pan as a goodbye present. Of course, Mindy overheard the entire thing, and she totally ships the two of them, but she lets it go. Later, at Grayspace's Fashion Week event, Emily, Sylvie, Julien, and Mathieu gather by the red carpet to watch as Pierre gets out of a limo, followed by a dramatized dump truck that releases a group of models wearing his new line of dresses. He gets back at the other designers by hijacking their red carpet, and it's a raging success. To celebrate, Emily takes everyone to Gabriel's restaurant, where he can prepare them his last meal while in Paris. There, Mathieu invites Emily on a romantic getaway with him, and of course, she says yes. Then, Antoine and Catherine arrive to join the party. Sylvie steps out to avoid Antoine, but Antoine can't stand idly by when he hears that a promising chef like Gabriel plans to leave the city. He tries to convince him to stay, but as Gabriel spares a glance in Emily and Mathieu's direction, he says he doesn't have anything to stay for. Oh, hey, by the way, did I mention that he dated Kami for 5 years? Anyway, the night goes on, and Emily gives an awkward goodbye to Gabriel while Mathieu watches. Later that night, she rushes down to the restaurant one last time, where she intends to give a proper goodbye, only for their third kiss to lead to a night of unforgettable passion. Afterward, they agree that they can't be together because it would hurt Kami. It's a little too late for that, and they decide to keep their affair to themselves. The next day, Sylvie tells Emily that she can keep her job. Shocker. Then, on the way home from work, Emily confirms her weekend plans with Mathieu before noticing Antoine sitting outside Gabriel's former restaurant. Apparently, he couldn't let Gabriel go and offered to back him at the Paris restaurant. This means Gabriel's not moving after all, and things just got a lot more complicated. The first episode of the second season starts with Emily having steamy flashbacks to her night with Gabriel during her morning run. She gets so lost in her own head that she nearly gets run over. But even a near-death experience isn't enough to get her neighbor off her mind. Back at home, Emily admits it was the best night she's ever had, but she can't be with Gabriel because it would hurt Kami. So, she goes out to ask Gabriel what he told Kami about what happened, but it turns out he's staying tight-lipped about everything. He's barely spoken to Kami, aside from telling her about his deal with Antoine that he's staying in Paris. Of course, Emily's not making anything easy for any of them, and breaks Gabriel's heart by telling him about her plans to go with Mathieu to that romantic getaway in Saint-Tropez. At Savoie, Emily meets up with Kami to talk business. Kami can't focus on the champagne ads with her relationship on the rocks, so she goes out for a girls' lunch with Emily and Sylvie. Throughout the conversation, Sylvie picks up on Emily's guilt and calls her out for sleeping with Gabriel, warning that there's nothing she can do to fix her mistake.
Focus on having with the client to get your mind off your friend's boyfriend.
Ice cold, Sylvie. Ice cold. There's a subplot throughout the episode for Julien, by the way, where he gets his first account with a luxury baggage company. Emily wants the baggage company to do a collab with Pierre, but her suggestion makes Julien feel like she's trying to steal his clients. The poor guy's really starting to feel undervalued at Savoir. Anyway, Emily ends up going to the train station with Matthew while using the sample product, a massive metal suitcase with Pierre's face on it. Matthew goes to check her bag into the luggage car, just as Gabriel calls Emily. He can't believe the girl he stayed in Paris for doesn't want to be with him. Emily says their night together was unforgettable, but a mistake. While they talk, Matthew returns from the luggage car and overhears everything. He realizes that Emily slept with Gabriel while seeing him, so he leaves the train before it departs. He lets Emily keep the hotel in Saint-Tropez for herself. Damn. In the second episode, Emily wakes up alone in her sad little train car. They've arrived in Saint-Tropez, where she remains alone on the train platform when Camille calls to ask if she's okay. Apparently, Mathieu went home and then spent his night with a bunch of models, which he then posted on his Instagram story. Emily tries to say their trip fell through and that she's coming home, but Camille tells her to stay put. Without a second thought, she hangs up on Emily to pack her bags for a girls' weekend. Emily immediately calls Mindy, asking her to come down to Saint-Tropez too, mainly because she's afraid of being alone with Camille. Emily is on her way to her hotel room with her unique bag when she's stopped by a fashion celebrity, Gregory Dupre. Gregory begs to take a picture with the bag because he and Pierre are old friends, insisting that the dramatic fashion designer will get a kick out of it. Emily agrees to snap a few pics for Gregory to post, thinking the publicity will help both brands. Afterward, she goes out to explore Saint-Tropez, only to get a call from Matthew begging her to get that picture of Gregory and the luggage taken down before Pierre has a heart attack. Emily got duped. Gregory said that he and Pierre were old friends, but what he really meant was rivals. Julien also calls her to ask what happened with Gregory. He had recently started working with Pierre and was with the designer when he saw the infamous Instagram post. Needless to say, that drama king is giving Julien a run for his money. Emily offers to get the post taken down, but Julien tells her to leave it alone because it's illegal to work on the weekends. I can't tell if he's joking or not. Emily decides a little work won't hurt. She and Sylvie had some of the champagne from Camille's family sent to a nearby club, and getting the name from Luc, she went to see how the advertising for the product was going. When she gets to the seaside club, she's shocked to find that Camille's champagne isn't on the menu and calls for the manager, Laurent G. The manager admits that the champagne tastes like... Still, Emily points out that this champagne is for partying, not for consumption. Exhibit A. Afterward, Emily goes to wash up in the club's bathroom, just to notice an old picture of Sylvie hanging on the wall when she leaves the bathroom. Weird. Later, Camille and Mindy show up at Emily's apartment, where they convince her to toss out her weekend plans and go to a house party instead. Camille wants to hook up with someone so she can get over Gabriel. Emily wants to get Camille and Gabriel back together, and poor Mindy's just stuck in the middle. Needless to say, the girls go to the house party, and Camille gets swept off her feet by a handsome stranger. Emily and Mindy lose them in the crowd, but Emily later finds a very drunk Camille by the pool, who she convinces to go back to Laurent G with her. At the club, they're not served Camille's wine like requested, so Emily goes to bother the owner, only to find him dancing with Sylvie. No joke, why is this woman everywhere? Sylvie immediately jumps at Emily for upsetting Pierre and bothering Laurent about a shipment he had only received recently. Emily tries to apologize, but Sylvie says she will handle Laurent because he's her husband. Yeah, you heard me right. She said husband. Turns out, Sylvie's got all sorts of secrets. Anyway, Emily goes back to her table because she has to share this latest discovery with Mindy. Unfortunately, Mindy's distracted by her phone. The hotel clerk told her that her dad had checked in 2 weeks ago. He came to France without saying a word to Mindy, leaving her to wonder why he didn't reach out when they were only hours apart. She shows Emily pictures of them together and explains how close they used to be. The next morning, Emily wakes up in a trashed hotel room. She gets a text from Cammy asking her for help because she's too messed up to drive, leaving Emily to call an Uber and get to Cammy ASAP. She finds her friend in a small church, one that once meant a lot to her. Cammy made all sorts of good memories with Gabriel in this church. You can tell going there brings a lot of comfort to her, but the memories must also be like salt in the wound. Cammy did go home with that handsome stranger from the party, but couldn't bring herself to do anything because she's still in love with Gabriel. Emily, you're just digging yourself deeper and deeper into this hole. Later, Emily goes to apologize to Laurent for interfering with his business, but he doesn't seem to mind. He tells Emily that he and Sylvie have been married for a long time, and that once, Sylvie was much wilder. He then sends Emily on her way so that she can escape Sylvie's wrath for the rest of the weekend. When she catches up with Cammy and Mindy, they walk through Saint-Tropez and pass by a place where Mindy's dad used to take her as a child. They decide to eat there, with Mindy taking a photo to send to her dad, before they notice Gregory's yacht at the dock. Emily insists that Gregory owes her one after conning her into getting that suitcase picture, so she and the other girls hijack the yacht. Emily comes home from her jog to find a package waiting for her. Mindy watches over her shoulder as she pries open the care package from her parents, filled with birthday decorations and treats. Emily reveals her birthday is the following day, but since she has no plans, Mindy convinces her to have a small dinner party with their friends. They go outside to pick a spot for the table, where Gabriel intercepts them. Emily invites him to the dinner party, and he agrees, offering to bake her a cake as a gift. Mindy goes inside to give them some privacy, and Emily tells Gabriel what happened with Matthew, which she thinks is for the best. Mindy then texts Emily, calling her out for inviting Gabriel. Emily promises she only wants to play matchmaker. To prove her point, she calls Cammy as soon as Gabriel leaves to invite her to the party. Cammy agrees and invites Emily to join her and some friends at a local hammam, a luxury spa. At work, Emily tells her coworkers that the luggage brand loves the collab with Pierre and hopes he'll agree to officially release the launch. She also invites them to her birthday dinner. While Luc and Julien agree to go, Sylvie declines the invite before pointing out that Pierre's not in a state of mind to approve a collab after what happened with the auction dress. She also puts Julien in charge of Pierre's account, turning him against Emily. Emily then goes to meet with Cammy, where she's shocked to learn that the hammam's a public bathhouse. She bundles up in a bathrobe, while Cammy and her friends gossip about Gabriel. Cammy insists that even though they've broken up before, it feels different this time. She doesn't think he's dating someone else, but she does joke about never coming between his pots and pans. He loves those things so much that his omelet pan has his initials on the handle. Nerd! On their way home from the hammam, Emily tells Cammy that Gabriel will be at the dinner party and begs her to show up. They also notice Matthew sitting at a cafe, but they come to a cross street where they need to part ways. Once she's alone, Cammy confronts Matthew for standing up Emily in Saint-Tropez. Matthew doesn't know what she's talking about, but explains that Emily was in love with someone else the entire time. Oh, if only Cammy believed him. On her birthday, Emily wakes up to tons of messages. Unfortunately, when she gets to work, she finds a bunch of luggage with Pierre's face on it waiting for her. She decides not to tell Pierre about the abandoned collab until after her birthday. Luke ends up asking to take Emily somewhere special for her birthday, and that's how she ends up in a spectacular graveyard. He tells her that to really enjoy life, she should contemplate death too, which is honestly kinda poetic. Later, after a trip to the market, Emily bumps into Gabriel, who teases her for her food choices. He drags her to a fresh food market where he helps her pick produce for her birthday dinner. Just as they're about to go home, they get caught in the rain. They stop beneath an overhang where Gabriel pushes a strand of hair behind Emily's ear and tells her how to say lightning strike in French, which can also mean love at first sight. Fortunately, Emily gets out of there before she does something else that they regret. Later, Emily's friends arrive for their birthday dinner, including Sylvie, who convinced Pierre to do the collab with the luggage brand for Emily. He's so excited that he wants to start working on the collab ASAP. He calls Julien to come help, forcing the Savoie employees to skip out on Emily's party. What else was he supposed to do? When Pierre Cadot calls, you answer. Everything is going great until Cammy goes upstairs to get the champagne, where she notices the omelet pan with Gabriel's initials, and it all clicks into place. When she comes back to the party, it's just in time for Emily to give a toast, one that she hijacks to give a speech of her own. It starts off nice, but she ultimately calls out Gabriel and Emily for their affair. Dang!
She pretended to be my friend while she had an affair with my boyfriend.
Well, you know what? Valid crash out. Emily rehearses what she'll say to Cammy with Mindy. What can she say? There's no coming back from sleeping with your friend's boyfriend. She goes down to Gabriel's restaurant to return his frying pan and insists, for the 100th time, that they can't be together because of Cammy. She also low-key blames him for Cammy finding out, because who puts their initials on a frying pan? At the meeting for her family's champagne, Cammy refuses to hear Emily out and asks to conduct the entire meeting in French. Afterward, Emily tries to talk things out, but Cammy doesn't believe anything she has to say. So things are going downhill for Emily, and they get worse when she shows up for French class. She's supposed to be moving up to level 2, but her French teacher holds her back. Forced to restart the French class, Emily has to choose a new partner for the year. She first approaches an Englishman named Alfie, but when he shows no interest, she moves on to a woman named Petra. When she goes back to work, she catches Luke and Sylvie talking about Cammy's account. Sylvie dismisses her help, but Luke offers to take her to see a classic French film to help her learn the language faster. A new client shows up at Savoie, a couple who wants help marketing their leeks. Yes, leeks. The vegetables. Obviously, Sylvie thinks that they're a waste of her time, so she puts Emily on the job. The couple feels that Emily's American origins will make her a perfect marketing representative for their brand, so it's a win-win. When walking home that night, Emily bumps into Gabriel, who offers to prepare the leeks so she can see them in a new light. Spoiler alert, they're delicious. Emily then gets a message from Petra asking her to meet for coffee, so she tells Gabriel to talk to Cammy before meeting her French partner. Petra doesn't have the best grasp of English, so the only way she and Emily can communicate is through French. It's messy, but they have a fun day while sipping coffee and shopping. Petra goes out of her way to pick the pricier items just to force Emily to steal them. The two women get into a fight over the stolen clothes, with Emily taking as much as she can for a quick return.
Don't you know what happened to Jean Valjean when he stole the baguette?
Meanwhile, Gabriel goes to the gallery where Cammy works. He tries to explain things and put the blame on himself, but you can probably imagine how that goes. Cammy wants nothing to do with him or Emily. You know what? Pop off, Queen! You deserve better! That night, Emily and Luke go to catch that movie. Emily can't follow much, but she does notice when one of the characters writes a love letter. After the movie, Luc explains that the hardest things to say are easier to write on paper. That has the little light bulb go off in Emily's head, because the next day, she decides to write an apology letter to Cammy. She asks everyone for help writing the letter in French, but no one can, so she sends the letter as is. It's terrible, makes no sense, and lights a fire under Cammy. Sylvie reads the letter Cammy sent back, which clearly tells Emily to leave her alone, so that all Emily can do is focus on her leak client and attend French class. The latter of which is a pain to attend because of Petra, so at her next class, Emily sits next to that Alfie guy instead. Also in this episode, Mindy gets approached by two guys and agrees to join their band as the lead singer. While she expects to perform in venues, they perform on the streets. In episode 5, Emily walks by Gabriel's new restaurant, now named Chez La Veau. He stands outside and she snaps a pic of him next to his first official menu. Antoine walks out of the restaurant and tells Emily that Savoie will handle social media for the restaurant's launch party, and Sylvie has put Emily in charge of their account. That's a lot to juggle, but they're having a meeting at Savoie the next day to hash out all the details. Emily later confronts Sylvie for not being told about the restaurant deal sooner and admits that working on its account might be a conflict of interest. Before they can discuss it further, a potential client arrives for Chopard, the jewelry brand. Luc gives Chopard his marketing pitch, which includes a boating party on the Seine where people can try on the jewelry. The client likes this idea, so Emily gets put in charge of finding live music for the party. It's a no-brainer, of course. She'll ask Mindy and her new band. She takes Julien to see them perform live, and he loves them, especially her guitarist Benoit, who he has the hots for. Later in French class, the students have to interview their partners. Emily learns that Alfie works for a bank, has temporarily moved to Paris for work, and that he's only taking the class as a work-related requirement. When he refuses to interview her, she chases him down and insists that they continue the assignment in a nearby cafe, but he blows her off. Back at work, Gabriel arrives at Savoie early, where he and Antoine will meet to discuss his restaurant's launch. As nervous as he is, he can't help admiring Emily during her presentation, and the Savoie squad decides the restaurant should have a grand opening. Emily also plans to stop by the restaurant after hours to shoot some promotional material for social media, because it's always a good idea to leave her and Gabriel alone. After the meeting, Julien tells Emily and Gabriel to take the back stairs, but when they enter the hall, they come face to face with Cammy and her parents. Her parents, excited to see Gabriel, have no idea that he and Cammy broke up. What a terrible way to get the news. Cammy and her parents go into the Savoie meeting, where Cammy comes clean about the breakup. Once the meeting is over, her mom, Louise, offers to help her get Gabriel back, so long as Cammy does everything she tells her. Meanwhile, Emily meets up with Alfie at an American-themed restaurant where they grab coffee. When he admits that he doesn't buy into the hype surrounding Paris, she takes him on a walk to show him how pretty the city is. He learns about her job during his conversation, and she invites him to the Chopard event so he can watch her work. Afterward, she heads over to Gabriel's restaurant to get those promo shots, where they get very drunk. A sloppy makeout sesh gets interrupted by someone coming in for an interview, and Emily flees the scene. The next day, Emily learns that Cammy wants her back on the marketing team and asks to meet for lunch. Cammy wants to clear the air and puts Gabriel behind them both, asking Emily to form a pact that puts their friendship above any man. So, Cammy's back. Sus, no? Later that night, Mindy and her band performed at the Chopard event. She introduces Benoit to Julien afterward, only to discover that Benoit's straight and totally into her. Ouch. Sorry, Julien. As Emily admires the view from Chopard's boat, Alfie shows up to chat. He's only in Paris for a year, so he's not committing to anything. Sounds like someone else we know. After the Chopard event, Emily and Mindy spot Gabriel on their way home. Emily stops to tell him that she can't continue their flirtatious relationship. She also doesn't want to start a committed relationship when she returns to Chicago at the end of the year, which would force them to break up. I mean, that's a good point, but she also made a pact. In the 6th episode of the season, things are starting to heat up. Gabriel's popularity begins to soar thanks to Emily's social media posts, while Savoie gets an exciting new client when Vespa decides to join the collab with Dior. Savoie gets a pretty big budget for the collab, so Sylvie tells them to go all out. Julien and Emily talk about Pierre while she goes through the photos from the Chopard event. Apparently, working for the drama-loving Pierre isn't as easy as Julien thought. Emily already knew that Pierre would be a hard client for Julien to take on, and she seems a little smug as she enjoys her quieter afternoon going through those photos, because the photographer made Sylvie his muse for the evening. Emily teases Sylvie for having an admirer, but Sylvie insists the photographer was too young for her. Of course, once she's alone, Sylvie calls the photographer, named Eric, and they agree to meet for drinks. Meanwhile, Julien goes to a photo shoot with Pierre, where he realizes he might be able to snag a famous and eccentric photographer for the Vespa Dior collab. While throwing on his charm, he manages to flirt his way into getting the number of the photographer's agent. Back in French class, Emily tells her classmates what she learned about Alfie. It's all run-of-the-mill stuff. When it's Alfie's turn, all he can come up with is how boring Emily is because she loves to work. This guy, what a charmer. Back with Sylvie, she and Eric bond over their love of photography and spend the night together. When Sylvie comes into work the next morning, she breaks the no food rule, tipping the others off to her good morning and new relationship. I just know they had hot goss around the office. Sylvie also lets Emily know that Antoine upped the guest list for the restaurant's grand opening from 50 to 150. Sure, as if Emily's job isn't hard enough. Speaking of Gabriel, he's getting ready for the grand opening when Cammy shows up with a bottle of champagne. She says it's a congratulatory gift from her parents, but she's there to bury the hatchet. I'm watching you, Cammy. Later, the grand opening for the restaurant begins and quickly falls apart. These aren't enough chairs for the guests, the music is too loud, and a food critic who actually liked Gabriel's talent walks out because she can't handle the chaos. Gabriel quits on the spot because he thinks Antoine turned his restaurant into a nightclub, and Antoine lets him go because chefs are expendable in Paris. Fortunately, Cammy and Emily work together to smooth over the men's egos and find an agreeable solution. The restaurant will stay a restaurant until 11, then Antoine can pump up the music. Crisis averted, and Gabriel has officially achieved his dream of having a Parisian restaurant. Meanwhile, Sylvie skipped out on the grand opening to spend the night with Eric. She tells him about the Vespa Dior collab and asks him to be the photographer. The next day, Julien also learns that he booked that famous photographer. There's an obvious conflict of interest. Mixing work with pleasure, never a good idea. Emily tries to convince Sylvie she's making a mistake just as Vespa calls. They're excited to have Julien's photographer on the shoot, which really sets Sylvie off. At the end of the day, though, the client's always right, and she has to fire Eric. Fortunately, he still wants to spend time with her, job or no job. Damn, this guy's 10 times better than Antoine. Anyway, the scooters for the Vespa shoot show up at Savoie, so Emily takes one for a joyride. On her way to French class, she notices Alfie walking, and to prove she's not a bore, she gives him a lift. In the 7th episode, Paris gets hit with a heat wave. Emily's apartment is sweltering. Mindy's on the hunt for a fan, Gabriel's changing his menu daily to match the heat, and Savoie doesn't have air conditioning? Talk about being cheap! Sylvie's on a call with Emily's Chicago boss, Madeline, when she gets to the office. After a few excited hellos between old friends, Madeline reveals that they're promoting Pelotech's global rollout. It's basically a company that sells exercise bikes. Pelotech's next stop is in France, which means they have to meet with Savoie for marketing. Emily gets a text from Alfie asking to meet for drinks before French class. They meet up and hide their drinks in coffee cups. Definitely not alcoholics though. Anyway, they show up just to get their subpar exams back. Alfie gets called to the board, where he fails to write a sentence in French. As his classmates laugh, Emily saves him by insisting he's trying his best. They hang out after class too, and Alfie lets slip that there's air conditioning at his place. Emily goes over, one thing leads to another, and suddenly she's waking up in his bed the next morning. She tries to do the whole sneak out before he wakes up thing, but he catches her and gets a kiss. He also tore her top the night before. Wild. So she borrowed his suit jacket to wear out. On her way home, she bumps into Gabriel, who has way too much fun teasing her for her obvious walk of shame. Emily tries and fails to play it off, insisting that oversized suits are so in. She also texts Alfie, thanking him for letting her borrow his top. Later, at Savoie, they have their meeting with Pelotech, but Sylvie and the others aren't convinced their clients will want an exercise bike when they can just ride beside the Seine. Emily's only half paying attention though. She sends Alfie another text because he never answered the first one. Julien overhears Emily try to call Alfie. He doesn't answer, and Julien hopefully points out how desperate Emily sounds. Meanwhile, Sylvie and Madeline disagree about Pelotech and whether it fits Savoie's image. When Emily comes into work the next day, the Pelotech bike is gone. But she can't track it down because Gabriel texts her. Gabriel and Alfie in the same room? That's a train wreck waiting to happen. Wrong. These guys get on just fine. They're busy watching a soccer game when Emily shows up, and they seem to like each other a lot. Of course, Gabriel's a little uncomfortable considering Emily just turned him down not so long ago, but Alfie's alright. It turns out Alfie's not a ghosting asshole after all. He just left his phone in the suit pocket that Emily wore home. What a big misunderstanding. Emily goes to get his jacket and phone back and has to admit to an embarrassingly long list of texts that she sent him. Alfie's flattered, because it means she likes him. In episode 8, Emily introduces a brand new marketing plan to Cammy at Savoie, a viral challenge called How Do You Pop Your Top? It'll be an interactive challenge where people take videos opening champagne in unique ways. Cammy loves the idea, but shows the Savoie squad a homemade video of her dad trying to advertise the champagne because he wants to be the face of the brand. Emily offers to go with her on an overnight trip to the chateau to see if they can find a solution everyone likes. Later that day, Emily tells Mindy about her upcoming trip to the chateau. Mindy's grateful because she wants the apartment for her and Benoit. It looks like things are getting serious between her and her rockstar boyfriend. Get it, girl? Emily then receives a text from Alfie saying he's waiting for her in the restaurant, and she rushes down there to get him away from Gabriel. Personally, I think she needs to chill. Alfie convinces her to stay put so that they can have their dinner date at Gabriel's place. Gabriel gives them a 5-course meal on the house, mainly so he can routinely check in and bother Emily. Alfie showers Gabriel's cooking in compliments and lets it slip that Emily is going on a trip with Cammy before going out to take a work call. Alone with Gabriel, Emily admits that Alfie's much less complicated and that she wants an honest do-over with Cammy. When she gets to the chateau, Cammy's family greets her with enthusiasm, including Timothy. Well, he has friends over this time, and the second-hand embarrassment is unreal when he introduces Emily to them. She saves herself by asking Cammie's father, Gerard, to kick off the online competition by opening a bottle of Champeret.
Oh my god, he's so hot. And he's pretty sweet and funny too.
He does so by using a sword to pop the cap, but on the third attempt, he accidentally cuts off the top of his finger. It's chaos, and they have to find Gerard's thumb before rushing him to the hospital. Meanwhile, Gabriel's bartender shows him an article about Cammie's father, so he calls her family's house to see if he's okay. He's fine, but Louise puts on the waterworks and insists that Gabriel join them for dinner to cheer up Gerard. Emily, after getting back from the hospital, takes a nap and wakes up late. And that awkwardness carries over when Cammie and Gabriel find themselves in Emily's room. Cammie and Gabriel have a moment where Cammie thanks him for being there for her family, and Emily tries to walk out of her own room just to get away from them. They get the hint and leave her alone, but I think it's pretty clear she's more into Gabriel than Alfie at this point. Girl, your love life is so freaking messy! Like, get it together! The next morning, Emily gets ready to leave when she catches Gabriel and Cammie taking a walk together. They're laughing like it's old times, and when Emily's cab arrives, Louise enthusiastically sends her off. I guess her job as a scheming mother is done? That's when Timothy hops on his bike to stop Emily's cab. She rolls down the window, and he says he thinks it's best if they both move on. Oh, do you think this poor kid has been pining over her all this time? At least he let her down gently. In the 9th episode of the 2nd season, Emily and Cammie cheer on Gabriel and Alfie as they play soccer together. It's all good fun until Alfie says they look like a couple of wags. That's wives and girlfriends of athletes. Cammie has to say she's not Gabriel's girlfriend anymore, which is like putting salt in an old wound. Alfie recognizes he messed up and goes back to the game. Afterward, he admits to seeing the appeal of Paris when Emily's friends are so nice. He asks if anything is going on between Gabriel and Cammie, and Emily plays it off for some reason. Again, you're dating Alfie, Emily. You know, the hot Englishman right next to you. As if she can hear my complaining through the screen, Emily invites Alfie on a date the following night. When Emily gets home, she accidentally walks in on Mindy and Benoit. She snags her phone charger and heads out to a park bench near her apartment. As she enjoys another beautiful day in Paris, she gets a picture of Madeline on a plane. She calls her old boss, who says she's taking a surprise trip to France to check in on Savoie for the Gilbert group. Unfortunately, she kept Sylvie in the dark. You know, the same Sylvie who can't stand when someone else gets to call the shots? The next day, things get off to a bad start with Madeline already at the office when everyone arrives. Emily's the only one happy to see her, and Madeline insists on sitting on a client meeting with Antoine. During the meeting, Madeline couldn't help noting how much Antoine's perfume brand has grown and franchised since signing with Savoie. Meanwhile, the other member of Mindy's band, Etienne, gives an interview to his reporter cousin about being in a group with Mindy. In case you've forgotten, Mindy comes from a very prestigious and well-off family in Shanghai. She's also competed on a singing competition that made her famous for a while. Anyway, his interview goes viral, putting Mindy's name everywhere. Benoit learns that she actually comes from a well-off family and isn't a struggling artist like he is. Mindy, who wanted to hide from her past, runs home. Later that night, Emily takes Madeline to the spot where Mindy and the band usually busk. When Emily learns about the band's recent argument, she blames the others for judging Mindy too harshly before going to find her friend. She finds Mindy curled up in bed, barely clinging to her sanity as she reads the news. The next morning, Sylvie arrives to find Madeline sitting at her desk. She's appalled, but all she can do is sit across from her and hash out the details of Antoine's account. Even though Antoine's business has more than doubled, he still pays the meager amount his contract originally started with. Long story short, Antoine should have started paying Savoie more a long time ago. Now, we all know that Sylvie used to see Antoine, which is why he never paid. But Sylvie can't admit to that HR nightmare, so she plays dumb instead. At another event for Antoine called the Laboratoire, everyone can mix their own perfumes or sample pre-made scents. Emily meets up with Gabriel and Cammy, who seem closer than ever, and Alfie. Madeline congratulates Sylvie on hosting another great event before Antoine and his wife Catherine walk in. Sylvie excuses herself to avoid them, so she doesn't overhear Madeline bring up the unbalanced books and Antoine severely underpaying Savoie. Antoine offers to talk about the problem another time and leaves. Catherine, however, drops a major bomb on Madeline.
I was having an affair with Sylvie for over 3 years. That's why she never charged us the full rate.
Madeline then goes to find Emily, who is with Alfie and Luc. Left alone, the two men get to talking. Sometimes Luc talks too much. He starts off strong, saying Alfie's a good match for Emily, but then goes on a tangent about how she deserves better after all the drama with the chef. Well, cat's out of the bag now. At the same time, Madeline's totally freaking out because she thinks Sylvie's out of control. She decides she needs to conduct a thorough investigation, and we know she'll find things she won't like. As the event comes to a close, Emily and Alfie catch a moment alone together. He asks her about Gabriel, but she promises that anything between them is in the past. Ooh, who are you trying to convince there, Emily? Him or yourself? Regardless, Alfie accepts her answer because he's starting to get real feelings for her. In the second season's finale, the sharks of Savoie are ready to chew up Madeline and spit her back out. Madeline's not happy with the way things are going, and neither are the Savoie employees, which is evident during their meeting following the Laboratoire event. During the meeting, Julien shows everyone a video of the fashion designer, Gregory, crashing out after his marketing firm left him. Everyone at Savoie laughs at him because of the stunt he pulled with Pierre's suitcase. Karma's a bitch, as they say, but Madeline doesn't get the memo. Unlike the others, she sees a designer who is desperate for a new marketing firm. Emily and Sylvie tell her they can't take Gregory as a client because of his rivalry with Pierre, but Madeline refuses to take no for an answer. She wants both designers to sign with Savoie. After the meeting, Sylvie calls her husband Laurent to ask for help, and Emily tries to track down Gregory. Julien helps Emily out by taking her to a club he knows Gregory likes. Fortunately, he's right on the money, and she gets a one-on-one meeting with Gregory where she convinces him to sign on with Savoie. Later at the office, Emily shows Madeline Gregory's signed contract, and he also agreed to invite Pierre to his upcoming fashion show. Sylvie shows up late because she paid a visit to Pierre. Between her and Emily, they convinced the two feuding designers to bury the hatchet. Luc jumps in to show a cake to Emily for Gregory's fashion show. It's good, but they would prefer to have a bunch of smaller cakes for the guests. Fortunately, Emily has a chef on speed dial. Later, Mindy and the band have a show that evening. Things have been pretty rocky between them since the billionaire outing, but they still get on stage and play their hearts out. Emily and Gabriel wait in the audience, where Emily convinces Gabriel to make those cakes for her. She gets a work call as soon as Alfie arrives. When she leaves the two alone, Alfie also asks Gabriel about his past with Emily. Fortunately, Gabriel says that while they could have gotten together, whatever happened between them is a thing of the past. Somehow, I doubt that. We then jump to a scene of Sylvie and Laurent together where they're signing documents and talking about bank statements. Laurent congratulates Sylvie on her newest adventure, but we're left in the dark about what that adventure could be. Interesting. Later, at the fashion show, Gregory gives his opening remarks, including a welcome to Pierre. However, Pierre steals the show by stepping onto the runway dressed as a king. Gregory brushes it off before showing off his new line of shapewear. It goes from the French Revolution to a Parisian club on that runway. After the show, Emily and Madeleine are approached by Pierre, who says that he's leaving Savoie because he is a French brand and he doesn't believe they're the right people to represent him. Well, it's almost as if Sylvie warned them about this. Madeleine tries to blame the situation on Sylvie and says that she'll be put under review. But in a twist no one saw coming, Sylvie announces she's resigning from Savoie and taking all of her employees with her. That's right, they all quit on the spot. Curse you, Sylvie. After the event, Emily rants to Alfie. It's the worst time, but he tells her his business back in London wants him to return home. In fact, he was supposed to leave a week ago, but he extended his stay to spend more time with her, which is just... oh. He wants to do a long-distance relationship if she does, and they share a passionate kiss. The next morning, Emily goes to work to find Savoie empty. Madeleine plans to hire fresh faces that she can mold into the perfect employees with Emily's help. However, Emily gets a text from Sylvie asking to meet for lunch. When she gets there, she finds Sylvie, Luc, and Julien waiting for her. They reveal that Laurent bought Sylvie's portion of his club, giving her the money she needed to start a new marketing firm. Most of their clients have already agreed to move firms with her, including Pierre, and she wants Emily to work for her too. That's a pretty big decision to make. Staying in Paris means leaving her life in Chicago behind. Does Emily love Paris that much? Later that night, Emily and Mindy talk about her big life decisions. Gabriel gets brought up, and Emily doesn't understand why she can't get him out of her head when she has another great guy like Alfie waiting for her. Mindy wisely says that until she's honest with Gabriel about her feelings, she'll always wonder what could have been. Emily goes down to Gabriel's apartment to come clean about her feelings, but she can't, because Cammy is there and unpacking her bags.
Emily!
Gabriel asked her to move in? When did they get back together? Emily barely makes it out of there before bursting into tears. What a diva. Alone in Paris, she calls Sylvie because she's made her choice. Unfortunately, that's where the episode ends, leaving the second season on a major cliffhanger. The first episode of the third season opens with a bang. We find Emily on the Eiffel Tower, where Sylvie and Madeleine confront her. Each of them presses her to decide where she'll work and spend the rest of her life. She gets overwhelmed and falls over the railing of the tower. Seriously, it's terrifying. Fortunately, though, we're watching a comedy, so Emily's death is nothing more than a guilt-ridden dream. Later that morning, Emily goes to have breakfast with Mindy, where they run into Cammy. She's in a pretty good mood after moving in with her boyfriend and breaking her pact with Emily. Oh, but don't worry. She's promised that she's loyal to Emily and Savoie. Her family's champagne will go wherever Emily does. Speaking of which, Emily goes to Savoie with the intention of quitting. Instead, Madeleine drags her into a meeting with Antoine and Gabriel, where they try to convince them to stay with Savoie. Afterward, she gets a call from her ex, Doug, who has just landed a deal with McDonald's. They want to promote a new product called the McBaguette, and he sent their representatives to Emily. I mean, thanks, Doug? Later, Emily goes to where the former Savoie employees have set up shop in Sylvie's apartment. It's pretty cramped in there, but they're making do. She doesn't tell Sylvie that she's still working for Madeleine, but she does suggest that they take on McDonald's as a client. Of course, Sylvie doesn't view the fast food chain as a luxury and declines it. That's when Antoine and Gabriel show up for their second meeting of the day with Sylvie. They spot Emily, and although they're obviously confused, they don't out her for being at both places. Emily thanks them afterward, and while Antoine cautions her to choose carefully, Gabriel has a heart-to-heart with her about her work. After an explanation, he takes her to a French McDonald's, where he gives her an idea for her pitch. He also offers to save a few tables for Alfie the following night so they can throw him a farewell party. Looks like he's moving on. The next day, Emily goes to French class, where she has to translate a saying. Not choosing is still choosing. Pretty much, it means that not making a choice can still have consequences. And Emily hates that answer.
Not choosing has consequences, so it's still a choice.
Fortunately, Alfie shows up to class to keep her company. Emily later convinces Sylvie to give McDonald's another chance, but it requires her to attend the meeting on the same day and time as Alfie's party. She decides she can manage both, somehow. Luke also realizes that he forgot his laptop with all his account information at Savoie's old office, so he heads there to steal it back. Unfortunately, going to Savoie leads him to bump into Madeline. He apologizes for leaving her all alone at Savoie. Aww, you think? That's nice. And it is nice, until he starts talking. He talks too much, revealing that Emily also works for Sylvie and snagged them the McDonald's client. Madeline gets the address for their meeting, pretending she wants to send celebratory champagne to their table. Luke, you are so gullible. Later that evening, Emily stands on the Eiffel Tower in the same dress from her dream. She and Sylvie have a heart-to-heart before the McDonald's representative arrive. It all goes off without a hitch, and they've almost snagged him as a client when Madeline appears, calling Emily out for her lies and informing the representative that none of the people at the table work for Savoie. The stress of the moment causes Madeline's water to break, so they rush her into an ambulance. She doesn't want Emily to go with her, so Emily's left behind to reconcile with Sylvie. Unfortunately, Sylvie's mad and fires Emily on the spot. Emily then gets a text from Mindy asking where she is, so she rushes to Gabriel's restaurant. The party now long over. Alfie's heading to a cab with his bags packed. Emily tries to apologize, but as she still hasn't planned a trip to visit him in London, Alfie decides that she loves her work more than him. He gets in the cab and leaves her alone on the street corner. Damn, it's a bad night in Paris. In the second episode of the third season, Emily's life has fallen apart, and she has to pick up the pieces. Somehow, Madeline keeps her on at Savoie despite her betrayal. Plot convenience, I guess. At the start of the episode, she picks flowers to bring to Madeline now that she's returning to the office 2 weeks after having her baby. Oh, and Alfie barely responds to her texts. Mindy, meanwhile, turned down a job at a jazz club because the offer only involved her, not her bandmates. Anyway, Emily goes to Savoie, where she and Madeline have to replace the personnel they lost. Sylvie, meanwhile, is launching her new marketing firm, Agence Grateau. One of her first events is for her most famous client, Pierre, who sends over a dress for her to wear to an event honoring his career. It's all coming up, Sylvie! Later, Emily tries to talk to Alfie about their relationship, but Madeline drags her away from their texts so they can attend a meeting with Tiffany & Co. A meeting Sylvie set up months prior, and one she still attends with Luc and Julien. With the opposing marketing firms in one room, Tiffany & Co. backs out of signing with either of them. Madeline also points out that they all signed a non-compete when the Gilbert Group bought out Savoie, which means they can't steal clients. Madeline and Emily try to salvage what they can by getting a meeting with Antoine. They explain that Sylvie signed a non-compete, so she shouldn't take him on as a client anyway. Antoine's not that concerned with legal matters and says he'll talk with his new CFO. That's when, and you aren't ready for this one, Alfie walks through the door. Yeah, Alfie works for Antoine now, and he never left Paris. Madeline and Emily leave in a rush. Once she's outside, Emily gets a text from Alfie asking to meet up. After a terrible day, Emily goes to Gabriel's restaurant for a drink, where she learns that he and Cammy knew the truth about Alfie the whole time. Some friends they were! But apparently, Alfie swore them to secrecy until he was ready. Alfie then arrives, and over some drinks, he explains that he met Antoine during his farewell party, made a good impression, and got offered a job. His new life in Paris aside, he still doesn't think he and Emily are on the same page about what they want. With her relationship on the rocks, Emily throws herself into work. She asks Luc for help choosing a new president for Savoie, and he suggests Sylvie. Since both marketing firms are struggling, he and Emily think they could overcome their differences and work together. They bring the idea to Madeleine, who agrees to apologize and offers Sylvie her position back. All she has to do is catch her at Pierre's tribute event. Can't be that hard, right? I thought so too, until they show up wearing the same outfit. I can practically see the steam coming out of Sylvie's ears, but she hears Madeleine out. Even with her old position back and job security on the table, Sylvie refuses to go back to Savoie. She thinks her marketing firm will turn out fine because she still has a notable client like Pierre. That is, until Pierre takes the stage and announces that he's entering into a new era of fashion and signing with a new marketing firm to do so. Uh-oh, there goes Sylvie's leverage. Madeleine takes the offer for Sylvie's return off the table, and everyone leaves the party worse off than before. The next morning, Sylvie gets a text from Pierre's new firm asking for a meeting. They want to give her and her team a unique position where they exclusively work on Pierre's brand. Sylvie later meets with Luc and Julien to consider the offer, but they encourage her to follow her dreams and not to sell out. They're with her till the end. God, I love these guys. That evening, Emily, Cammy, and Gabriel go to watch Mindy and the band perform. Gabriel also invited Alfie, hoping that doing so might help patch things up between him and Emily. It might have worked. But Alfie's not so quick to forgive and forget. Emily's determined though, so after Mindy finishes performing and finds out that Benoit accepted the job at the jazz club for her, Emily takes the stage to sing her rendition of What's It All About, Alfie. It's sweet, it's out there, and it helps her get back to being the apple of Alfie's eye. The third episode of the third season has Emily's life getting back on track as she starts the morning in Alfie's bed. Officially back together, they get to say good morning before going their separate ways for work. At Savoie, Emily finds Madeleine arguing with the property manager, Henry, about the broken elevator. Madeleine can't handle any more stress, so she tells Emily to fix it. She calls Luc for advice, who happens to be very close to Henry, and he offers to talk to him. Meanwhile, Sylvie overhears his phone call. Her apartment is falling apart now that she has employees running amok, and her landlady wants them out. She tells Luc to invite Henry to dinner, obviously planning a scheme. Later in the day, Mindy finds Emily taking pictures of people and their pets outside. It's apparently for a project proposal for a new client that sells dog food. That doesn't sound like a luxury brand to me, but the two people at Savoie are starting to get desperate. Emily's so desperate, in fact, that when she and Alfie later meet at the jazz club to watch Mindy perform, she starts to ask about Antoine and his loyalty to the firm. Alfie ends their conversation with a kiss before they sit with Cammy. Gabriel's not there, since he's swamped with work. Meanwhile, Luc and Sylvie have dinner with Henry. They play up the charm, with Sylvie seducing Henry into helping them get back the Savoie rental space. Henry agrees to smoke out Madeleine and Emily like they're pests, so he can make a new contract with Agence Grateau. You rat! Stuff gets crazy the next day. First, Henry ups the heat in the building. That alone makes Madeline lose it. But he also sealed the windows shut, preventing her from getting fresh air. Emily then shows her the campaign proposal for the dog food brand, which includes a filter that turns you into your pet. She downloads it to Madeline's computer, turning her into a cat. Wait, that's cute! Unfortunately, the moment of peace gets interrupted by a pigeon flying into the office. Wait, weren't the windows sealed? Anyway, Madeline then has a Zoom meeting with her colleagues in the Gilbert room, so she sends Emily to find Henry. Of course, she can't turn the animal filter off. The pigeon keeps attacking her, and she drops the F-bomb on camera. It couldn't be worse. All of this leads to Madeline abandoning the Savoir office. Henry, meanwhile, gives Sylvie the good news. The place is hers. The next day, Emily goes to Madeline's hotel room, where they'll be working until they find another office space. She's ready to get down to business when Madeline tells her to forget about it. She pulls out a plane ticket and reveals the not-so-shocking news. After hearing about the disaster at Savoir and all the employees walking out, the Gilbert group decided to close the branch, which means Madeline and Emily have to catch the first flight back to Chicago. I think Emily's life flashes before her eyes here as she works up the courage to tell Madeline that she not only quits, but that she'll continue to pursue the life she wants in Paris. Sylvie and her employees move back into their old office. They're happy to be home, but Luc and Julien can't help but think that someone is missing from their team. In the 4th episode of the 3rd season, Emily streams while traveling around Paris. As she goes live, she fully embraces her influencer life, asking her followers for things to do while enjoying unemployment. Meanwhile, at Agence Grateau, Luc and Julien give the pitch for the dog food client, the same AI pet filter pitch that Emily came up with. They win over the client, and Sylvie congratulates them on their hard work. That's when they tell her that Emily sent them her notes, which Sylvie does not appreciate. I'm sure they wanted her to recognize Emily's brilliance and rehire her, but that's not how Sylvie flies. Meanwhile, Emily and Alfie have a picnic in the park, which is très romantic. Alfie keeps getting work calls, which Emily can totally sympathize with, but she's a changed woman now. All she needs to worry about is completing every item on her unemployment to-do list. She's in the zone. Later that afternoon, she's at Gabriel's restaurant with Mindy, where she goes over their itinerary for the next day. Mindy tries telling her to slow down, like that's gonna happen. Gabriel comes over in a huff because he had to let go of one of his waiters, making the restaurant short-staffed. Emily used to be a server in the States, so she offers to fill in. You know, her French still needs some work, but she's a natural. She's still feeling the high of a successful night waiting tables when Cammy arrives to see her joking around with Gabriel. Emily tells Cammy about her quitting Savoir, staying in Paris, and helping in the kitchen. Between you and me, Cammy looks kinda pissed. Meanwhile, Sylvie's having a hard time adjusting to her new role as a business owner. She stays up late into the night going over legal documents, ultimately texting Laurent and asking him to come to Paris to assist her. You know, for a separated married couple, they seem pretty close-knit to me. Anyway, Cammy and her parents go to a meeting with Agence Grateau the next day, where Cammy invites them to her new gallery opening. Sylvie also learns about Emily staying in Paris, as do Cammy's parents. After their meeting, Cammy admits that she feels bad about making that pact with Emily just to break it. Man, we are taking this pact thing way too seriously. Maybe you should have settled for a pinky promise. Anyway, Emily has lunch with Luc and Julien, who ask if she's willing to return to work. Obviously, she says yes, but she has to wait for Sylvie to come to her. She can't go to Agence Grateau begging on her hands and knees. It won't get her anywhere. Speaking of Sylvie, she could really use Emily's help, because even with Laurent, she can barely get through the paperwork. Later, Eric Eric shows up to find Sylvie and Laurent sipping wine. She's clearly uncomfortable with the thought of Laurent staying over, but he plays it off by reminding Sylvie that they have Cammie's gallery to get to. Meanwhile, Cammie's parents stop by Gabriel's restaurant, where Emily pops in to say hello. She pitches them a new idea for their business, a champagne for a younger demographic that they can call Chimere. After she leaves, Louise is furious that she's working so close to Gabriel and that she also has good marketing ideas. She raises her concerns with Cammie and Sylvie at the gallery event. Cammie doesn't seem threatened by Emily and gets out of the conversation by going to help one of the gallery's artists, Sophia, escape a fan's wandering hands. Sophia then admits that the man wasn't her type, but that Cammie is, and invites her to talk more later. I see that look, Cammie. You broke a pact for Gabriel, remember? Back at the restaurant, Emily almost gets a customer killed by telling him there were no mushrooms in his order. Oopsie. He has an allergic reaction on the spot, and while Gabriel understands that it was an accident, afterward he encourages her to enjoy her free time by firing her. It's an act of tough love. Promise. Back with Cammie. Her gallery goes off without a hitch. Sophia's the last one to leave for the night, but before she goes, she whispers a secret in Cammie's ear. Whatever she said, Cammie seems really into it. Later, Sylvie and Eric go out for lunch. He admits that he's not comfortable sharing her with Laurent, but it seems like she's really good friends with her ex, and they're only looking out for one another. As they're enjoying their meal, the table next to theirs orders the same champagne that Emily wants to sell in a more marketable, user-friendly bottle. Sylvie takes it as a sign from the universe and goes to track down Emily at an amusement park. Outside the bumper cars, she gives Emily her old job back. Let's go! We're so back! In the 5th episode of the 3rd season, Emily returns to work and finds Sylvie, Luc, and Julien doing a photo shoot with Eric. They didn't include her because her work visa hasn't been approved, so she can't do much around the office. She's desperate to get on Sylvie's good side though, so when Sylvie says she wants to get La Liste, a monthly list of 10 people who influence Paris for the better, Emily dives headfirst into getting her an interview with the liste's writer, Janine Dubois. Fortunately, Janine happens to follow Emily on Instagram, so one DM has already gotten Emily's foot in the door. That evening, Emily meets up with Mindy and Alfie for dinner. They happen to run into Nicolas, the man who took over marketing Pierre's brand. He and Mindy went to the same boarding school, so they're happy to catch up and can't help ogling one another.
You were the naughty one.
Nah,
You stop.
You know that
You
it was.
so naughty.
Hey, that's a whole lot of naughty going on.
Seriously? Is it getting hot in here, or is it just me? Anyway, Emily then invites Nicholas to a house party that Alfie's holding at his new apartment. When Emily goes to meet Janine at Gabriel's restaurant, she learns the columnist is Australian, not French, giving her a unique perspective on the people in Paris. Janine gets the chance to talk with Emily, Gabriel, and Sylvie throughout the evening, learning about their personal struggles and dreams. It seems to go well, and Emily's in a good mood when she shows up at Alfie's housewarming party. The place is packed because he invited everyone in his apartment complex. Nicolas shows up, but he's only there to see Mindy and completely ignores Emily. Fortunately, his obvious attempts at flirting get thwarted by Benoit, who comes swooping in to give Mindy a passionate kiss when he notices her getting friendly with another man. For a series that has its share of affairs, these characters sure are jealous. Sophia then bumps into Emily in the kitchen where Cammie is. When she finds her later, the two of them end up on the roof overlooking the city. Again, Sophia admits that she likes Cammie and doesn't want to leave her behind in Paris, leading to an afternoon of making out in a place where no one can see, or so they hope, because Emily accidentally walks in on them kissing before running the other way. Ooh, drama! The next day, Emily and Mindy spend some time at one of Nicolas' establishments. They spend a few hours lounging by the pool where an employee brings them some complimentary sunblock to sample. Emily thinks that the love song Benoit wrote for Mindy might be perfect for the sunblock's ad, and knowing Benoit could use the money, Mindy agrees. They call Nicolas over to pitch him the idea, and Emily convinces the DJ to play the song over the speaker speakers, and it gets everyone dancing. Nicola has to go back to work, but he's impressed with Mindy's voice, so he promises to give the song idea some thought. Unfortunately, when Mindy brings up the possibility to Benoit, he's completely against selling the rights to the song. Girl, you tried. If he wants to busk for pocket change, more power to him. When Emily calls Nicola the next day to say Benoit won't sell the song, he says he still wants to work with her, after she just landed a spot on La Liste. Just then, Emily passes a newsstand and notices her face on the front page of a magazine. To her horror, Janine put her and Gabriel on the list, but not Sylvie. Sylvie, who is in shambles by not making it into Paris's list of influential people, is in a horrible mood when Emily arrives at work. Fortunately, she's able to smooth things over by revealing the deal she made to work with Nicola's marketing firm. Later that evening, Gabriel and Emily go out with Alfie to celebrate their landing on La Liste and listen to Mindy sing. They're joined by Cammy and Sophia, the latter who teases Cammy behind the table where no one can see. Benoit, still a little jealous of Nicola, jumps to conclusions when Nicola sends her flowers. However, he still comes on stage to perform the duet he had rehearsed with Mindy. By the time they get to the end of the song, he stands from his stool, plays the final chord, and leaves the stage before taking a bow. In the 6th episode of the 3rd season, Mindy can't get Benoit to answer her texts. Nicola, meanwhile, brightens her day just by saying hello. Meanwhile, the location for a client's event falls through at the last second, leaving Agence Gratteau to scramble for a replacement. They're planning to showcase a line of limited edition luxury cars for the McLaren agency. Emily has the idea to host the event at one of Antoine's estates. Coincidentally, Alfie had already planned to stay there for work and had sent her pictures of the large lavender fields. It all comes together, aesthetically speaking, because the car is purple like the flowers. It also gives Antoine the chance to collab with another luxury brand while selling a related project. It's a win-win all around, really. The next day, Alfie, Emily, and Gabriel head to Antoine's estate on a train. Cammy stayed behind to help Sophia with the gallery. In any case, Gabriel's going to cater the event, but he also wants to visit a local restaurant with a Michelin star. He's so excited. He's like a kid in a candy store. Alfie agrees to go with him, which is so sweet. Once everyone gets to Antoine's estate, things get complicated fast. Sylvie brings Eric with her, who learns about her former affair with Antoine. Eric is as jealous of Antoine as he is of Laurent. Then, just as Alfie's about to head out for lunch, Antoine pulls him away to deal with a perfume-related emergency, which forces Emily and Gabriel to go to the very expensive restaurant together. Everyone mistakes them for a couple, but I don't think they mind. Later, once the McLaren event begins, things start to get messy. When aren't they though, really? Sylvie gets a text that Laurent is almost at the event, so she takes the guest list from Emily to prevent her husband and lover from bumping into one another. Her plan doesn't work because Eric's tired of finding Laurent everywhere they go. First, Laurent's staying at their place. Now he's attending their work event? He's uncomfortable with Sylvie seeing her exes, so he gives Sylvie his camera and leaves without a goodbye. We never see him again either, so that's a pretty nasty breakup. Emily introduces herself to the McLaren executive, who explains that the limited edition cars will be more expensive and yield higher profits. She takes this information to Antoine and Alfie, who start fighting over the perfume. Most of the batches were ruined, so Emily suggests marketing the good bottles as a limited edition scent. Wait, that's low-key genius. At dinner that night, Antoine does just that, advertising the perfume bottles that came out well as luxury items that will only be for sale for a short amount of time. He plans to launch it alongside the McLaren car, both dominating the scene with a purple theme. Since Eric left the event, Sylvie and Laurent have time to talk about their marriage. They bring up getting a divorce, but they must still love one another because they hook up before the party even ends. Poor Eric. As for Emily and Alfie, they head home early the next morning. Catherine stops them and thanks Alfie for sticking up to Antoine. Antoine also admits that he bought one of the luxury cars, something that is so far out of his budget that Alfie can't comprehend it. Fortunately, Antoine puts on the charm and wins Alfie over by letting him drive the thing back to Paris. In the 7th episode of the 3rd season, Nicola invites Mindy and her friends to an outdoor movie. She and Emily bump into Gabriel, who they invite to join them, because Cammy went to Greece with Sophia. Emily feels terrible about Cammy having an affair under Gabriel's nose, but it's not like he didn't do similar things to her. No, I'm not condoning Cammy's behavior, I'm just saying Emily's a hypocrite. There's a difference. The next day, the Agence Gratteau group visits Gregory to see his new launch for Air France. He's meant to design clothing for flight attendants, but instead, he puts his models in eye-catching leather and flashy hats. It's cool and fun, but definitely not what I would expect to see walking down the aisle of a plane. They try to convince him to tone his designs down so Air France might choose them, but he refuses and submits them as is. Sylvie excuses herself for a phone call from Pierre, who begs for their help because he hates the way Nicola's firm is representing him. He came crawling back, didn't he? Sylvie and the others decide to visit him as friends to offer their advice. They go to a secret store where Pierre meets them, where Nicola has blasted Pierre's face everywhere, turning his brand into a joke. Pierre wants them to leave, but since he sold his brand, and therefore his name, to his new firm, Sylvie tells him to stay where he is. Later that night, Emily and Mindy get ready for the movies. A box shows up for Emily with one of Gregory's airline designs inside, along with a note saying it was rejected. That's not a surprise, but Mindy does take the leather beret and corset to impress Nicola with. At the movies, Nicola admits that Pierre is a pain to work with, and Emily offers her firm's help anytime. But he tables the work conversation and leaves to enjoy the movie. Unfortunately, no one actually goes there to watch anything because it's a notorious hookup spot. Emily and Gabriel have to leave early because they keep getting hit on. As they wander the streets of Paris, they come across a photography museum and exhibition where you can take your own pictures. Seriously, there's a massive ball pit. I want to play in the massive ball pit. Okay, don't mind me looking up tickets to France. As the night comes to a close, Nicola and Mindy admit that they like one another, while Gabriel admits that Cammy's avoiding him. Emily avoids telling him about her affair, and the next morning, she gets a call from Nicola. He takes her up on the offer to help with Pierre, so she and Sylvie arrange a lunch meeting to discuss the details. Emily is so excited that she even invites Pierre, but when Nicola gets there, he informs the group that he plans to fire Pierre and keep his brand. He intends to keep the brand alive by handing it off to an up-and-coming designer like Gregory. Yeah, as in Pierre's sworn rival. This is bad. Obviously, everyone at Agence Gratteau hates this idea, but Nicola can legally fire Pierre. Pierre was late to lunch, so Emily tells him not to come. Unfortunately, he was already on the street outside the cafe, and, well, he just didn't see this car coming. In the 8th episode of the 3rd season, it looks like Pierre might be dead. The core 4 of Agence Gratteau walk through a beautiful wooded area while dressed in black. Emily blames herself for what happened, even though Sylvie reminds her that she wasn't the one driving the car. It's at this point that I start believing they really just killed a man, when the group turns a corner to reveal a beautiful hospital. Oh yeah, Pierre's nothing if not stubborn. He's cheerful as ever and happy to see his friends who came to visit him. The car didn't kill him, but it did manage to break his collarbone. Despite the incident, Nicola still plans to give his brand to Gregory. Of course, Pierre doesn't know that yet, and no one can bring themselves to tell him such heartbreaking news. Later, Emily tries to convince Nicola to postpone the announcement until Pierre is out of the hospital, and he refuses. Asshole! So, Sylvie takes matters into her own hands and schedules a lunch with Nicola's father, Louis de Leon. At lunch, she urges Louis to ask Nicola to postpone the announcement so Pierre can leave his brand with more dignity and respect, but Louis refuses and says the decision falls to Nicola because it's his account. That's when Sylvie brings up meeting Louis when she was still an assistant and remembers what he used to be like. She uses the information like a threat, and he immediately agrees to talk with his son. Clearly, she has some blackmail on Louis. Unfortunately, it sounds like he has a history of assaulting his female employees, Sylvie included. The next day, after Mindy's performance, Nicola confronts Emily for Sylvie going over his head to talk to his father. He insists that he decides when to tell the public about Gregory. He only cares about turning a profit. Pierre's just collateral damage. Emily decides to leave after that, just in time too, because Gabriel wants to meet up for drinks. She finds him drunk and sitting beside the Seine. He's so wasted that he goes on about a text he got from Cammy, which said she was coming home from Greece early so they could talk. He assumes she plans to break up with him because she never got over his fling with Emily. He also admits that he's in love with Emily. Why does he care if Camille's gonna leave him at this point? Be so for real, Gabriel.
She knew I fell in love with you the minute I saw you, standing at my door. How could I not?
Emily gets through all of this while getting Gabriel in a cab and back to his apartment, but he's so out of it that there's no way he'll remember their conversation come morning. At work the following day, Emily tells Sylvie that Nicola still plans to tell the world at the shop's grand opening, so she and Sylvie go to the hospital to tell Pierre the bad news, and Pierre's devastated. Nicola is planning to take his brand and career away in one fell swoop. To someone like Pierre, this is a fate worse than death, which gives Emily an idea. We then cut to the shop's grand opening, where everything's going off without a hitch. Emily and the other members of Eugène's Grotto spread the rumor that Pierre died in the hospital, and that's why he couldn't attend his own event. Nicola, Leon, and Gregory believe the rumors, so they're caught unaware when Pierre shows up to steal the show. Pierre tells everyone that the only thing that died was his brand when he signed on with Nicola, so everyone could expect to see him revive in a new era. How is that for an announcement? Damn! Nicola feels humiliated. Pierre made a comeback, and even if Gregory takes over his brand, the world knows that Pierre had no say in it. In the 9th episode of the 3rd season, Emily and Alfie reunite after he spent some time in London to celebrate his mom's birthday. They're happy to see one another, but Emily's shocked to learn he hasn't told his family about her yet. She shares her red flag concerns with Mindy later in the day, but Mindy tells her to be patient. She also admits that she's a little upset with Emily for the stunt she pulled on Pierre. It puts her between a rock and a hard place, as it felt like she had to choose between her boyfriend and her best friend. Mindy, I get it, girl, but I think Nicola is such a tool. Regardless, Emily apologizes, and Mindy invites her to watch her last show at the jazz club because they're going to start requiring their performers to sing in the nude, which Mindy isn't comfortable with. At work, Emily and her coworkers are working on a campaign for a company trying to sell love in the city of Paris. Technically, they're Julienne's clients, but Emily jumps in to offer her input and steals the show. Julienne starts to feel underappreciated and tells Sylvie as much, but nothing comes of it then. As it is, Emily needs to find a couple willing to have their proposal recorded and commercialized for money. As she does research for a good couple down at Gabriel's restaurant that night, he admits that he's planning to propose to Camille. Uh-oh. The news completely catches Emily off guard. I mean, me too, but wow! Alfie suggests that he and Cammy be the couple in Emily's campaign, and Gabriel later agrees. So he and Emily plan to meet up to search for potential engagement venues. They go out the next morning to examine the most romantic spots in Paris. Aside from the tourists everywhere, they settle on the Wall of Love, and it's easy to see why.
A calligraphist collected over 300 ways of saying I love you in a notebook and then work with a muralist to engrave them on tiles made of lava.
Immortalizing dozens of I love yous with something as hot as lava? There's nothing more romantic than that. Emily asks what prompted the proposal, even though Gabriel was certain his relationship was going to end. He admits that he and Cammie's conversation brought them closer together. I guess all that cheating biz is water under the bridge? The next day, Gabriel has a meeting with Antoine and Alfie. He had asked Antoine for a raise, but Alfie did him one better, convincing Antoine to give him a share in the restaurant. He would not only be the head chef, but also own the place, with Antoine as his silent partner. So long as the restaurant succeeds, so would Gabriel, which would mean a significant pay increase. It also means reinventing the hotel in his image, so Gabriel agrees and rushes off to tell Cammie the good news. They then go on a museum date where they reminisce about their years together. It's all so sweet. So sweet, in fact, that Cammie proposes to Gabriel. He says yes, of course, and tells Emily with the hope that it doesn't mess anything up for her. Later, in a meeting with that very client, Emily shares the news about her proposal couple getting engaged early. Julienne tries to salvage the meeting, but Emily butts in with a new plan. It's pretty extravagant, requiring several couples and hot air balloons to carry them through the air. It's not a bad idea, but she does steal Julienne's thunder. Meanwhile, Nicola throws an after party for Mindy, where Emily tries to apologize for pulling one over on him with the Pierre incident. When Mindy joins them, Nicola lies and says that Emily has to leave early. Instead of causing a scene, Emily plays along and leaves the party early. In doing so, she hurts Mindy's feelings. Nicola, you snake. Outside with Alfie, Emily rants about all the sucky things happening to her lately, including his newfound secrecy. He admits that in the past, when he felt ready to introduce a girl to the family, they always left him shortly after. Emily reassures him that she's not going anywhere, so he offers to call his mom then and there. Instead, she suggests they go hot air ballooning. Wait a minute, is she gonna propose? In the third season's finale, things are moving quickly as Gabriel starts remodeling his restaurant. Emily swings by and gets to meet his grandmother, Gigi, who Gabriel decides to name the restaurant after. Gigi came all the way from Normandy to help him cook for the grand reopening, because she taught him everything he knows about cooking and the kitchen. For whatever reason, she doesn't like Cammie, but Cammie takes that in stride when she invites Emily, Alfie, and Mindy to an engagement party her parents plan to throw. At Agence Gratteau, Julienne tells everyone that he snagged a meeting with the British suit brand Turner and Ascot. Emily wants to pitch ideas, but he refuses her help, making it very clear that this will be his account and project. Since she can't help with the suit brand, Emily brings up wanting to help Gabriel get a Michelin star. Sylvie points out that reviewers for the stars remain completely anonymous, but fortunately, one of Luke's ex-girlfriends happens to be one of them. I guess that cat's out of the bag. He texts her to see if she wants to join him for dinner. Sometime later, Mindy and Emily meet for lunch, where they happen to spot Cammie and Sophia at another table arguing with one another. They go over to say hi, and Sophia reveals that she'll make frequent trips to Paris, even though Cammie's clearly trying to end things between them. When they leave their lunch break, Mindy suggests that it might be time to tell Gabriel about the affair before he marries a cheater. At the restaurant later that night, Luke brings his ex to try Gabriel's food, while Alfie manages to tell Mindy about the absent Nicola and how he sent Emily away during his last party. Mindy ends up leaving early to confront Nicola and demands that he treat her friends with more respect. That's some queen level shit. Mindy, you're officially my number one. The only one I would trust to make a pact with. Moving on. The next day at work, Julienne gives his pitch to Turner and Ascot until Emily chimes in with her input. While she's just trying to be helpful, Julian feels passed over and snaps. He storms out of the room, where Sylvie follows to apologize. It's always nice to see when she cares. Julian goes back to finish his pitch, but it's not without tension. Later that night, he sends an email to a new marketing firm considering their offer for new employment. Maybe Emily should just mind her own business every now and then. I'm just saying. Emily and Alfie arrive arrive at the chateau, where Cammie's family throws a beautiful engagement party. Meanwhile, Mindy waits for Nicholas, who never shows up to pick her. Instead, Benoit knocks on the door. He and Mindy haven't spoken in a while, but he has some big news. It turns out that the reason he didn't want to sell Mindy's love song to Nicola was because he submitted it to Eurovision, a Europe-wide singing competition, and they got in. That's a pretty big deal because it means they'll represent all of France in the competition. Unfortunately, Nicola ruins the moment by calling Mindy to ask where she is. He picks her up in a dang helicopter so they can make it to the engagement party, just in time to hear Gerard give his toast. Nicola even apologizes to Emily, putting their differences behind them. Looks like Mindy's got a choice to make. Luke gives Emily the good news about the Michelin star, and she later rushes off to tell Gabriel that he's en route to get a star. He's so excited that he goes straight to Cammie and suggests that they get married then and there. They have everything they need in one spot, so Cammie agrees, piling all their friends into a tiny chapel on her family's grounds. Unfortunately, she can't bring herself to say I do, because she knows, deep down, he's still in love with Emily. Really? We're still doing this 3 seasons in. Cammie desperately wanted to hold on to her long-term relationship because it felt safe and comfortable, but she can't bring herself to settle down with Gabriel knowing that he doesn't love her anymore. She admits this to herself and in the chapel filled with their loved ones before calling off the wedding. When she leaves Gabriel at the altar, Alfie goes to leave too. Emily tries to stop him, but he can barely look her in the eye. In the final moments of the season, Emily and Gabriel find themselves completely alone. Alone, and possibly on the worst night of their lives, Emily and Gabriel share some secrets. One is that their feelings for each other never went away. Barf. And the other is that Cammie returned from Greece because she's pregnant. Well, Gabriel mentioned wanting kids at some point, but I don't think this is what he had in mind. In the first episode of the 4th season, Emily and Mindy spend their morning watching a TikTok created by Camille's younger brother, Timothy. Yeah, the same one Emily slept with. Timothy goes on a tangent, explaining how Emily ruined his sister's life and ended a marriage at the altar. Since he comes from a well-off family, I'm sure the video has gone viral and will spread online quick. It even reaches some of her co-workers, including Luke and Sylvie. Mindy tells Emily to give Gabriel a chance now that he's not with Cammie, but Emily still wants to stay out of his way. Unfortunately, she runs into him on her way back to work. He burned his hand and needs help opening his apartment door. She tries to cook the chef breakfast, and you can imagine how well that goes. But Sylvie calls her to the office because of the TikTok scandal. At the office, Sylvie sends Emily into a meeting with Julienne and Luc. Apparently, Julienne created a new ad campaign called Love in the Air that centers on Emily and Alfie because they were the most popular couple on the hot air balloons a few episodes back. Julienne wants Emily and Alfie to make a public appearance together at an upcoming tennis event. Instead, Emily suggests they do a kiss cam. The client and Julian go for it on the stipulation that their popular couple kisses on the cam too. Obviously, Julienne's not happy to hear about Emily's breakup after the meeting. All Emily does is lie to friends and to clients. How does she have a life or a job? Sylvie tells Emily to handle the situation before meeting with Antoine. During their meeting, he shows Sylvie a new perfume called Crystal Heart. Yeah, she doesn't like it. She's also not surprised to hear that Catherine has filed for divorce. Anyway, Alfie joins them, and Sylvie tells him about the kiss cam appearance. She says it'll hurt Emily's career if he doesn't show. Alfie later calls Emily because he notices advertisements of them together across the city and begs her to take them down. Instead, she shows up at his gym, gets him punched, and then begs for a conversation. Well, she's nothing if not insistent. So, Alfie asks for a few more days to sort himself out. Meanwhile, Sylvie and Laurent go on a date, and it's revealed that Nicola's father Louis wants to become Laurent's partner in owning a yacht club in the middle of the city. Laurent considers it good news and wants Sylvie's firm to help him advertise his business. Sylvie looks a little mortified, but she can't bring herself to say what happened. At the tennis match, things start to go south when Alfie doesn't show up in time. Everyone begins to panic as their campaign plan goes up in smoke. Meanwhile, Mindy overhears Nicola and Louis talking. Louis congratulates Nicola on finding a nice, good-looking woman. Apparently, he had disapproved of her clothes and complained about her appearance. Mindy doesn't appreciate Nicola sending her an outfit just to make her more enjoyable to a certain audience, so she walks out. Meanwhile, Alfie arrives in the nick of time and explains why he ran out on Emily. He always had a feeling that she might like Gabriel and feared she might leave him. After the wedding debacle, his fears were justified. Unfortunately, he ended their relationship with one final kiss for the cam. Also, during the tennis event, Julien tells Sylvie that he's leaving Agence Gruteau to work with Nicola because he feels underappreciated. Thanks, Emily. After the game, Alfie bumps into Antoine. Antoine's sorry to hear about Emily, but it prompts him to rename his new perfume Heartbreak. It's beautiful. When Emily gets home that night, she finds Gabriel waiting for her with devastating news. No one can find Cammy, and she's been missing since she left him at the altar. In the second episode of the 4th season, it's all hands on deck to find Cammy. Emily and Mindy assume she must be in Greece with Sophia, so Emily finally goes to tell Gabriel about the affair. He's not happy to hear about Cammy cheating on him or that Emily kept it a secret, but he goes inside to call her parents. Meanwhile, Mindy meets up with Nicola, who's in the doghouse. She's still mad he didn't stand up for her when his father Louis made rude comments about the way she dresses. Fortunately, Julien arrives for his first day before a big argument can erupt. Nicola shows him around, and it puts everyone in a better mood. It's a stark contrast to Agence Gruteau. It's quiet, and he has his own office. Nicola then apologizes to Mindy and gives her access to the brand closet. It's this luxurious room where they store their designers' clothes. She's having the time of her life until two girls show up and tell her not to be in there alone. That's when she learns about Louis forcing his female employees to dress up for him. That night, she brings that horrifying information to Emily, unsure of what to do with it. At the same time, Emily and Luc have to take over Julien's abandoned accounts. Luc doesn't feel prepared, so he calls Julien for help, who helps give him a pitch to a client through an AirPod. You know, comedies always use this bit, and it never goes well.
It was my lunch, you idiot! The baguette is my lunch, you idiot.
Fortunately, Sylvie and Emily help salvage the presentation. When Emily goes home to talk with Mindy, they also get a call from Sophia, who has no idea where Cammy is. Now worried that her pregnant friend is officially missing, Emily goes to tell Gabriel the bad news. Gabriel plans to go to one of her family's homes to look for her, but the next day, Emily gets dragged into a scandal that prevents her from helping the search. When she realizes that Louis is helping Laurent launch a new club, she questions Sylvie. She knows Louis is a terrible person and gets a hunch that Sylvie may have experienced his abuse firsthand. In the privacy of Sylvie's office, she tells her boss that Louis continues to abuse the young women who work for him. We can assume he did the same to Sylvie when she was his assistant, and Sylvie wants to know all the details. A reporter has reached out to her for a comment on Louis, specifically about misconduct allegations, but Sylvie's on the fence about responding. Emily later meets with some of Cammy's other friends, who do not like Emily for numerous reasons. Obviously, they know about her fling with Gabriel and that they're loyal to Camille, so it's a pretty tense conversation. Unfortunately, they don't know where she is either and want her to come home too. Emily leaves their meeting in a rush because she has an event for a client. When she gets there, she apologizes, explaining that Cammy went missing. Luc comments on tracking Cammy's location, and Emily remembers that Cammy once gave her the option to do so. Of course, it took this bozo forever to remember that key detail. When she checks the tracker, she sees that Cammy's at the house of Monet and goes to bring her home. But as it turns out, Cammy doesn't want to go home. She went to the Monet's house to volunteer and help care for the grounds, so Emily finds her in a boat tending to the pond. The two get into a fight about what happened, each in their own boat, until a fight breaks out and they tip over. Their cold plunge breaks the tension between them, and Emily convinces Cammy to come home. When she gets there, she finds Gabriel and Sophia waiting for her. Sophie and Cammy finally admit that they're in love with one another. So, I guess that means Gabriel and Emily are finally free to mingle. In the third episode of the fourth season, Emily goes out for a jog. She can't help noticing how attractive all the men in Paris are. At the same time, Gabriel stops by her apartment to use her shower, and Mindy lets him in before leaving the apartment. When Emily gets home from her jog, she runs into Cammy, who says that she and Sophia live with Gabriel now, leaving the three of them to cram into his one-bedroom apartment. Emily goes straight to her bathroom, assuming Mindy is the one in the shower, to rant about the freeloading couple downstairs. Gabriel interrupts her after she mentions her breakup with Alfie because he's shocked that she's single. He also promises that Cammy living with him is only temporary, but that doesn't make her feel better. Later at work, Emily gives the presentation for Antoine's new perfume, formerly Crystal Heart, now Heartbreak. The rebrand fits his image better and was inspired by his recent divorce. To market the latest perfume, Emily suggests that they throw a masquerade ball because people always hide their emotions when they're hurt. Alfie's also in their meeting, and he gives her a hard time for the masquerade idea. Clearly, he's still heartbroken too. Amid other work drama, Sylvie worries that Laurent is depending on Louis too much for the launch of his new club. For the first time, she tells her husband about the reporter from the paper and what Louis did to her when she was his assistant. Louis, Nicola, I guess being a terrible person runs in the family. Anyway, Emily and Gabriel bump into one another while she's waiting for her cab to the masquerade. She reminds him that a relationship between the two of them would be too complicated. But at this point, would it be, actually? We passed complicated a long time ago. At the masquerade, Emily bumps into Alfie, who asks her for a dance. While they spend time together, he goes out of his way to ask for a second chance. Really? He knows about her past with Gabriel, but her still being single means something to him. Before Emily can answer, Sylvie pulls her away to look for Antoine. While she searches for him, Emily runs into Gabriel, who came to the event to spend time with her. Of course, he pretends to be somebody else, someone less complicated that she can be with. While she doesn't find Antoine, she does have to choose between Alfie and Gabriel. At the end of the day, she decides to spend the rest of the masquerade at Gabriel's side. Alfie notices them dancing together, and the poor guy is gutted. Well, looks like Cammy was right all along. Meanwhile, the reporter releases the article about Louis, which spreads like wildfire. Sylvie leaves the masquerade early. She goes to apologize to Laurent, who immediately loses all funding for his club, but he's proud of her for speaking up. Nicola also texts Mindy and says he can't make it to the masquerade because of an emergency. She goes to his place to comfort him and tells him about the girls she met in the brand closet. Fortunately, he seems to believe her about his dad's true colors. The episode ends with Gabriel and Emily taking a romantic carriage ride home as they share a passionate kiss. Gabriel insists that they continue living in their fantasy world, which officially marks the start of their relationship. And it only took them 32 episodes and about 16 different relationships. In the fourth episode of the fourth season, Emily and Gabriel try and fail to find a private hookup spot. They each have roommates and only one bedroom, so when they slam into Emily's apartment all hot and heavy, Mindy nearly dies on the spot. They notice Mindy on the brink of tears, so they rain check their night together. As Emily comforts Mindy, Mindy, she learns that Nicola and his family are trying to save face and cover up his dad's predatory behavior. Meanwhile, at Eugène's grotto, everyone notices how tense Sylvie is because of Laurent's club shutting down. Sylvie wants to find a solution, so she calls her mom, a former nightclub owner, for help. Luc also mentions that their marketing firm is starting to lose clients because of Sylvie's expose on Louis. He was loved in the community, so people turned against her for telling the horrible truth. Well, that's their loss, isn't it? Sylvie's a total badass, and Louis needed outed sooner. When Sylvie's mom shows up, they go out for lunch, where Sylvie asks her to use her mom's former nightclub as a brand new venue for Laurent's Paris location. Her mom's a pretty nice and supportive woman, so she says yes with a few stipulations. We'll come back to those later. Meanwhile, Nicola and Julien go to watch Gregory's newest fashion line. However, they're appalled to see it's inspired by the saying, "Men can't keep it in their pants." You know, I'll give Gregory points for his creative genius, but I can see why Nicola needs help seeing eye to eye with the designer. After a long workday, Emily goes to Gabriel's restaurant to find him with Cammy and Sophia. Although they were supposed to be alone, he invited the other couple to taste test pastries left behind by potential hires. Afterward, he makes it up to her by taking her to the rooftop of their apartment, where he made a romantic outdoor area for them to spend the night together. Her time with Gabriel also gives her a pitch idea for a new client. She wants to sell shampoo for graying hair. According to her pitch, it's all about embracing the gray area in your life. She believes that when someone embraces their adventurous spirit and vulnerability, that they'll also embrace their gray hair. The pitch is a success, and so is the opening of Laurent's new club. At the opening party, Julien appears to tell Sylvie he had to quit his job because Louis wanted him to betray him. Sylvie thanks him for his loyalty and gives him his old job back. Mindy also calls Nicola to invite him to the party, but he refuses, saying it wouldn't look good on him or his family. That's a bullshit answer though, and Mindy knows it. Meanwhile, Emily goes home to change for the party and finds Sophia and Cammy coming back from apartment hunting. Cammy hates every listing they toured, but says she wants to live in Paris. So Emily takes it upon herself to tell their landlady about Sophia illegally staying in Gabriel's apartment. Can we take a second to appreciate how low-key rude that is to do? At the party, Julien invites Gregory to bring his new fashion line, which amps up the media presence. Mindy performs with the band, reigniting her chemistry with Benoit. They bonded over their love of music, and that kind of passion is something she could never have with Nicola. Meanwhile, Sylvie's mother says that Laurent can rent the club from her instead of sharing half the profits. This allows Laurent to have a permanent business in Paris so he can stay closer to Sylvie. Nicola arrives after Mindy's performance and tells her that not only is Louis losing his job in the company, but that their board of directors elected him to take over. It's about then that Emily and Gabriel find each other at the party too. Emily admits to snitching on Sophia, but he's also tired of sharing his apartment, so he doesn't really mind. Cammy and Sophia then arrive and tell Emily that they'll soon be Gabriel's next door neighbors. Sophia then hopefully reminds Emily that Cammy will always be in Gabriel's life because of their child. Yeah, you can just feel the friendship between them. In the 5th episode of the 4th season, Emily and Mindy try desserts from Gabriel's new pastry chef. As delicious as they are, the new chef is a pain to work with. Emily reassures Gabriel that it's all worth the effort because he's on track to getting a Michelin star. She then goes to talk with Luc and his girlfriend about said Michelin star, but Marianne gives Emily their bill and insists she pay if she wants Gabriel to get that star. Is that legal? Anyways, Mindy's friend Lee pops into the restaurant to ask Emily a favor. She wants Eugène's grotto to represent her skincare product. The next day, Camille and Sophia start moving into their new apartment. Gabriel tries to to help when he notices them arguing, but Sophia doesn't seem happy to have him stepping into their relationship. Cammy tries to give her engagement ring back, but he tells her to keep it since they're still going to be a family either way. Oh yeah, jealousy does not look good on Sophia. Back at Eugène's grotto, Sylvie asks Luc for a favor. She needs Marianne to get her into an expensive restaurant that night for Laurent's birthday. Marianne agrees to help, but only if Luc will ask for a raise. Meanwhile, there's trouble in paradise for Cammy and Sophia as they argue about what to buy the baby first. Later that night, Sylvie and Laurent show up to their reservation and are surprised to find Marianne and Luc waiting for them. Apparently, they turned the birthday dinner into a double date. Yikes. I got some serious secondhand embarrassment from that one. Luc pushes for that raise even though it's the worst time to do so. And that's when a real Michelin star provider appears and calls Marianne out for her scams? Turns out they fired her months ago. She had lied to Luc and never planned to give Gabriel a star in the first place. At the same time, Sophia tells Cammy that she's returning to Athens. She doesn't think Cammy's putting much effort into their relationship or willing to change her life for her. So Cammy ends up alone in that apartment. While all of this goes down, Gabriel takes Emily out to meet his other chef friends, which makes her realize why getting a Michelin star means so much to him. When they get home, they kiss, right where Cammy can see them. What a way to end the day, huh? The next day, the Agence Gratteau crew attends the launch event for Lee's moisturizer. There, Luc tells Emily the news about Marianne. Meanwhile, Cammy learns that she was never pregnant to begin with because she had a false positive test. Wait, what? She tells her other friend that she's scared to tell Gabriel the truth because he might start treating her differently. Oh, he definitely will. All those lies will add up eventually. Anyway, Emily and Cammy then stop by Gabriel's restaurant. He's actually relieved to hear the news about the Michelin star, as if not having it took some weight off of his shoulders. Happier than ever before, he hugs both of them and celebrates their unique little family. Ooh, enjoy it while it lasts, buddy. In the 6th episode of the 4th season, the Christmas season arrives in Paris. Emily prepares to spend the holidays in Chicago, but her flight gets canceled because of the snow. Gabriel can't go far because of the restaurant, but he does get invited back to the chateau with Cammy. There, her mom encourages her to put the moves on Gabriel and win him back while Emily is gone. Unfortunately, her scheming gets overturned when a single call from Emily has Gabriel wanting to return to Paris. Gerard makes the best of both worlds by inviting Emily to the chateau for Christmas. At the same time, Sylvie spends time with her mom, Heloise, and plans to cook dinner for Laurent and his daughter who's coming to visit. Meanwhile, Emily doesn't get the warmest of welcomes when she gets to the chateau. Gabriel's happy to see her, but the vibes are pretty tense. Back with Sylvie, Laurent tells her that his daughter Genevieve will soon move to Paris for work. Sylvie ends up burning their dinner, so she takes them out to eat. During dinner, Genevieve reveals that she put in an application to intern for Karine Riotfeld, a fashion label. Sylvie knows Karine, so she promises to put in a good word. Back at the chateau, Emily goes upstairs to call her parents, leaving Gabriel to ask Cammy what's wrong. She brushes off his concern and his offer for a walk before taking him skiing the next day. They offer to bring Emily too, but Gabriel continues to leave her behind because he's worried about Cammy getting hurt. Emily struggles her way down the ski slopes until a man named Marcello stops to help her.
Bonjour, est-ce que ça va? Ciao, tutto bene?
When Emily catches up with Gabriel, she calls him out for putting Cammy first and treating her like a mistress before going back to Paris alone. Oh no, Emily's crashing out in Paris again. Meanwhile, Genevieve gives Sylvie a thank you gift for putting a good word in for her with Karine, but Sylvie feels bad because Karine turned down the internship. To fix things, she offers Genevieve a job at Agence Gratteau. Back at the chateau, Cammy takes the chance to talk to Gabriel and tells him the truth about the pregnancy. Or does she? Anyway, when Emily returns to Paris, she finds Alfie and tells him that she broke up with Gabriel because she never had a real chance with him. Alfie tries to console Emily, but then, in a final slap to the face, reveals that he's on the way to meet his new girlfriend's family. Bro moved on quick! In the 7th episode of the 4th season, Mindy is doing whatever she can to pay for her Eurovision competition, including performing at a topless club. She also encourages Emily to talk things out with Gabriel now that the holidays are over. Unfortunately, when she tries to catch him outside for a little chat, Cammy shows up to take him to lunch. So, Emily has to go to work where she meets Genevieve and takes her under her wing. They spend the day together, including going out to lunch, where they talk about Sylvie and Emily's disastrous personal life. At the same time, Gabriel and Cammy talk about the baby. Instead of giving the full truth, Cammy says that she was pregnant but lost the baby. They decided to speak with a priest to handle their grief. The priest is very kind and commends them for choosing to adopt instead. Adopt? Gabriel has no idea what he's talking about, but Cammy insists she wants a fresh start with him. I don't think option is the best way to go about that, sis, and neither does Gabriel. Meanwhile, Sylvie tries to bond with Genevieve by taking her shopping, and Mindy tells Nicola about her new job. He doesn't want Mindy to take the job because he thinks it'll ruin his reputation and his chance of becoming the CEO of his company. Meanwhile, Emily bumps into Gabriel and reminds him that they need him for a marketing photo shoot. Even though she's just talking business, he's pretty cold about it, saying he doesn't want her to know anything about his personal life. At work the next day, Emily meets with Antoine about a line of new children's perfume. He loves her pitch idea, and Genevieve admires Emily after watching her work. I'll admit, her love life may be a mess, but she's damn good at her job. Later that day, Emily goes to give Cammy some of the new perfume as a peace offering, only to learn she's not pregnant. Emily is so shocked by the news that she tries to talk to Gabriel again the next time they cross paths. Of course, Gabriel refuses to speak because she doesn't even know his language. That's when Genevieve steps in and offers to translate, speaking in French to Gabriel. With Genevieve as his translator, he explains that he's tired of the lack of communication between everyone, but Genevieve doesn't deliver it in a nice way, leaving Emily upset as she returns to the office. Later that night, Mindy and Emily catch up. Mindy doesn't feel comfortable with her new job, and Emily feels terrible about her breakup, so they go out to cheer themselves up. Emily tells Mindy all about Genevieve and how sweet she is, but I've got a feeling that that sweetness is all an act, and that Genevieve is more sour than she lets on. In the 8th episode of the 4th season, Emily and Mindy watch Nicola play polo. They also chat about Mindy lip-syncing for her job, hoping no one will notice, and how close Genevieve's already gotten to Gabriel. During the game, Emily notices the man who saved her on the ski slopes, Marcello. Coincidentally, he's also a close friend of Nicola's visiting Rome. He and Emily get to talking, and he invites her on a date. Back at home, Emily discovers that Cammy moved out of her apartment. According to Gabriel, she wanted a fresh start and didn't tell anyone before packing her things. The next day at work, Emily, Luc, and Julien compare coffee brands for a client when Genevieve arrives, conveniently asking about any apartments for rent. Emily doesn't tell her about the vacant one next to Gabriel's. Okay, sabotage. Later, at a Eurovision photo shoot, Mindy and Benoit have to sit together like a couple, which trudges up old feelings. Mindy is not the only one with relationship problems, because when Emily meets with a potential client, a coffee brand named Bavaza, Genevieve suggests that Gabriel be part of their campaign, hoping that doing so will help their brand. Emily does get a gift sent to her from Marcello to get her mind off things, and she's surprised to learn that he is the heir to a cashmere-making empire. Afterward, she gets to go to the topless club with Nicola, where she plans to support Mindy. When Emily goes to check on Mindy, she finds that the audio recording isn't working. Mindy's terrified that she'll have to perform live, so Emily goes on stage to perform with her, preventing her from showing anything to the audience. After the show, Benoit tells Emily how much he regrets letting Mindy go, which inspires her to call Marcello. They go on a date where she takes him on a tour of the city. Emily invites Marcello to the Bavazza's launch party that afternoon, but he has a flight back to Rome to catch. Instead, they decided to catch up soon. At the event, Gabriel finally breaks his silent treatment with Emily, but only to say that they shouldn't see each other anymore. That's fine though, because Marcello walks through the door. He can't bring himself to leave when he knows Emily's last boyfriend abandoned her. Gabriel, overhearing the abandonment story, leaves the event with Emily chasing after him. Before the episode ends, Marcello offers to buy Emily a plane ticket so she can visit him in Rome. In the 9th episode of the 4th season, things are getting trickier than ever before as everyone's relationships fall apart. An article comes out about Mindy having an affair with Benoit, despite still being with Nicola. We know it's ridiculous, but journalists will print anything for a good story. Meanwhile, Marcello continues to offer Emily a place to stay in Rome. Gabriel also told Genevieve about the empty apartment next to his, so he helps her move in. At work, Emily bumps into Cammy, who's there to meet with Sylvie. She still plans to adopt with or without Gabriel and is looking for a home more suitable for children. She also wants Agence Gratteau to start marketing for her family's entire business, not just select projects and bottles of wine. Inspired by her friends, Emily requests time off to go to Rome, even though she tells Sylvie she's going to Poland for work-related business. Later, Emily makes it to Rome. Marcello gives her a tour of the city. The two try local foods, flirt, and enjoy each other's company.
Oh my god, the Trevi Fountain! Are you gonna be really embarrassed if I want to throw a coin?
I'm embarrassed if you don't.
The chemistry is off the charts with these two. Despite spending the entire day out, Emily doesn't take a single picture, which tells you how smitten she is. After dinner, Marcello reveals that he and his sisters still live with their family and offers to introduce Emily to them. She agrees, but they run into the co-owner of Bavazza along the way. Sylvie's not happy when she finds out Emily lied about her trip, and she gets even madder when she learns that Nicola wants to acquire Marcello's brand. Obviously, she calls Emily to set up a meeting between Agence Gratteau and Marcello because that's literally Emily's job. Except, Emily refuses because she's on vacation, which is like playing with fire when it comes to Sylvie. A few things happen next. Mindy goes to dinner with Nicola. He wants her to quit Eurovision for his image, but she refuses and breaks up with him instead. Meanwhile, Emily attends a gala event with Marcello, and Gabriel goes to Genevieve's housewarming. Emily and Gabriel even kiss their new love interests at the same time. After the gala, Emily goes back to her hotel room and finds a bottle of champagne waiting for her as a gift from Sylvie. That bottle should have been a warning, because Sylvie turns up in Rome the next day, offering to market Marcello's brand. Unfortunately, Marcello gets the wrong idea and thinks Emily is only there to win him over, so he leaves without hearing them out. In the finale of the 4th season, Emily finally gives Sylvie a piece of her mind and says she had no right to come to Rome and interfere with her personal life. She decides to take a page from her coworker's books and not mix business with pleasure, so she goes after Marcello. On her way to meet up with him, she catches up with Mindy, who tells her about the breakup with Nicola. Apparently, Nicola released a song Mindy sang for his company, while she also got pulled from her Eurovision spot. With her life in shambles, she could also use a break from Paris, so Mindy plans to catch the first flight to Rome. Once Emily makes it to Marcello's hometown, she crosses paths with his mom, Antonia. At this point, Emily's a pretty well-known person, so Antonia helps her reach Marcello for a proper apology. Marcello forgives her and takes her to dinner with the entire town, which is pretty much his extended family. While they spend time together, we learn that even though Marcello lost his dad at a young age, Antonia stepped up to run the family business. Antonia then asks Emily not to take pictures. Their family prefers privacy. Emily tries to respect his privacy by waiting until they're alone to question Marcello's decision to sell his cashmere sweaters to Nicola. Marcello believes selling his sweaters will also help monetize his family's other homemade products. However, their conversation makes Marcello think Emily is only there for business, so Marcello says he can no longer see Emily. Later, Emily goes to catch up with Mindy. As they walk down the streets of Rome, something Emily says inspires Mindy to update one of her songs. She has Emily record her as she plays a street-side piano, bringing in a huge crowd. When she wakes up the next morning, she realizes her song went viral overnight. She even has an invite from the reality show Chinese pop star to become a judge. She can't turn an offer like that down, so she leaves as soon as possible. The same morning, Marcello calls Emily to set up a meeting with her firm. She lies, telling him that they have an office in Rome. Obviously, they don't, so she calls Sylvie to help her pull off her scam. Sylvie somehow manages to borrow an office space from an old friend where they can hold their meeting. She also calls for Julien and Luc to join them. Once all four of Agence Gratteau's best agents stand in Rome together, they successfully run a business out of someone else's office. They've got serious skills to drop everything and work on the fly like this. During their meeting, Emily promises to uphold the privacy Antonia likes, and she agrees to a 6-month contract. Marcello, on the other hand, leaves because he believes Emily only came to Rome for his brand. Back in Paris, Gabriel gets the good news that he's getting a Michelin star. And it's legit this time. As Alfie and Antoine celebrate his success, Genevieve insists that they should celebrate too. As the night goes on, the drunker they become. Gabriel admits to how much he misses Emily, but that doesn't stop Genevieve from trying to win him over. Fortunately, Gabriel insists that she respect his boundaries before leaving a message for Emily, telling her about the star. Back in Rome, the Agence Gratteau crew celebrates another success with a party. Marcello actually shows up, allowing Emily to apologize, insisting she never intended to bring work into their relationship. The next morning, Sylvie tells everyone that she has opened a second branch of their firm in Rome, and that she wants Emily to run it. This is huge news, and of course, Emily jumps on the opportunity. She tells Mindy, who is also moving back to Shanghai, and then Mindy tells their other friends back in Paris. Gabriel can't believe Emily's leaving, but Alfie encourages him to go get his girl. Gabriel asks for Emily's new address, while she takes a picture in her brand new apartment to post on her Instagram. She rebrands her account to Emily in Rome before Marcello arrives to take her on a drive. And that's the story of Emily in Paris so far. We've laughed, we've cried, and we've questioned Emily's sanity. Feel free to watch another one of our videos while you're here, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!